Good afternoon, and welcome to day 2 of the operating budget hearings. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and for the record, we have in attendance Mr. Fusco, Mr. Malik, Mr. Lombardo, Ms. Holland, Ms. Amobian, Ms. Mosley, myself. Have I missed anyone? And online, I do not see anyone yet, so we will come. Okay, there I see, trying to see who that is. Ms. Baylor, thank you. All right, just a refresher, try to stay to the numbers today, and I know, Mr. Fricker, you've always in the past, if we have questions, or even department heads, if they have questions that are kind of outside the realm of discussion for today, we always encourage those things to be emailed in.
Gather those and prepare responses to those.
Okay, and you know, I know some of the things yesterday you had to do a little searching. Maybe if we see some of those things going to take a little bit longer, we'll just defer and ask if we could get an answer later. So, all right, we will begin today, and we're going to begin, you're looking at your agenda. We're going to begin with Clerk of Council today. Ms. Viviano, we'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After hearing some of the presentations yesterday, I want to take the time to publicly thank Michelle, our Deputy Clerk of Council. She's currently the only other employee in the clerk's office, so it has been challenging as we've increased duties with less staff members. We work closely with other departments, residents, and council on a daily basis. So I'd also like to thank each of you for your patience as we work hard to make sure all needs and requirements are being met. A big part of what we do is assisting with council initiatives, things like the neighborhood partnership grants, weekly spotlight. You'll see these things on the legislative side of the budget, not the clerk's office, but I feel it's important to note that we do assist with those things. My office also works closely with Dr. Joan Williams, so a huge thanks to her as well. We really make a great team here between our offices to make council operations run smoothly. I do want to touch on some of the things that we've been doing to improve things. One of those things is utilizing our existing on-base software to get more documents public-facing. Not only can current agenda items be found in our agenda portal, but past legislation and meeting minutes are available in our public access viewer. Both of those links can be found on our website. We've been adding older records to make them accessible as well. And for over a year, we've updated our YouTube videos with chapters, or timestamps is a better word for it. So instead of one long stream of committees, someone can click the link in the description box. It'll take them to the specific committee that they're looking for from that day, or to a specific portion of the council meeting. Again, this shows on the legislative side of the budget as well, but the technology upgrades to chambers is high on my priority list as well. I'm here with you every Monday, and I understand the frustration with the audio system and the challenges we have with it. It's great that we can offer the hybrid option, but we need to improve it. We're working with an old audio system, an old camera with limited views, so I'm excited about the update. It's going to help with our audio issues and give us more than just this one screen here to utilize. We have a local company we've been working with on solutions, and I'd like to coordinate that timing well so that we're minimizing the disruption to others who use these chambers. As far as training and education, I don't want you to see the lower expenses from last year and think that I'm not interested in education. Unfortunately, due to staffing, it's been hard to attend training opportunities. I am a member of several clerk organizations that I'm able to network with regularly to ensure that we're following best practices, but I would like to attend further training opportunities, and I'd like our deputy clerk to as well, because it's very valuable. My other plan is to hire an administrative assistant. Some of you have been here long enough to remember that the clerk's office used to have 4 full-time employees, then 3 plus a part-time, then consistently 3 for a long time. We're currently down to 2, and it's just not sustainable long term. Overtime was mentioned a lot in yesterday's hearings, and as a manager, I'm not eligible for it, but our deputy clerk is. Working every Monday night, special meetings, budget hearings like today, in addition to our normal business hours, that does all add up, and I need another person to help relieve the workload and reduce burnout. Thanks again, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor to questions, and we will, again, if you're online with us, just put that hand up and we will go ahead and recognize you. So we'll start. Any questions from committee members? First off, Mr. Malik.
you. Is this on?
Yes, I believe so.
I don't think it is. I think you're going to have to flip the switch at the top as well,
That's right, that's Sharon's.
and then make sure.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear it. So that actually is a great lead into what I was going to say, which is thank you to Sarah Viviano for always being there to be helpful. I really do appreciate it. I know all of us do. I did have a specific question. It might be for either you or Mr. Fricker. I know that when it comes to salary and wages, the last 2 years, the expenses were above $250,000, and the budget is under $200,000. Do we anticipate that this will be sufficient for this year?
So, yes, and keep in mind that Dr. Williams was budgeted within the council budget, but ended up being charged to the clerk's budget. So that's why you're seeing the higher than budgeted expenditures in the clerk's, and then on the council side, it's just the way that her salary hit. It was kind of just a coding snafu. So we have fixed that. So, council continues to have 17 total employees, 14 on the council side and 3 on the clerk side.
Okay, so budgeted here is space for an administrative assistant?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, looking for any questions from, let me go with the committee members, and then we'll come to other attendees. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Just wanted to ask Sarah, the upgrades to video or audio, whatever, does that include any technology upgrades here with our microphone system? Sometimes it just seems like we can't hear, and I know they're not, the microphone is not right here where it should be, so go ahead.
Yes, so one of the demonstrations that we went to, that was our huge concern, was the audio here, and we explained you have to speak right into a microphone or we're having trouble. So one of the demos we went to was great. The microphone was in the middle of the room, and we were communicating with somebody who was joining remotely. That microphone was picking up all of us, as opposed to having to be right into the microphone.
Okay, great. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
We'd be lost without you. And Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, move away from committee members now, and we'll go to Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to double check that the upgrade to our tech support for streaming and meetings comes entirely out of Clerk of Council's budget or partially from
Comes out of
places?
the actual council budget. So on page, it's going to be on the second page, or it's page 70. I'm sorry.
71,
First
maybe?
one I said, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It is on page 71. So it's in that service contracts line. That's where the S3 technology upgrades resides.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I was reading it right. Thank you so much. And Sarah, I just wanted to double check that you are in fact not eligible for overtime, right?
That is correct.
And so that is one of about 5 million reasons that I would like to take this moment to thank you for every extraordinary thing you do that makes this operation run as well as it does. You are so appreciated.
Thank you so much.
She knew what she was getting into, though. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Amobian?
Yeah, just a question. I think I heard yesterday, or are there other individuals who are exempt staff who are eligible for overtime?
So we have basically any hourly employee
Right.
for the city of Akron is eligible for overtime. So the exceptions to the exempt employees would be all managers and cabinet people, basically, are the people that are exempt from overtime.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I think Michelle does get overtime when she's here on. Correct. Yeah,
That is
okay.
correct.
Other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, Councilwoman Baylor has her hand raised online.
I'm sorry, Ms. Baylor. Please, proceed.
Given the presentation.
I think you might be.
Thank you,
There we go.
Mr. Chair. I just want to take this time to thank Sarah and Michelle publicly for the great job that they do taking care of us. I know that I can sometimes be a pain as far as asking questions or asking for, for them to do things for me. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. You guys do a great job, and you do it with a great attitude, and it is so appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sarah, thank you. You know how we feel about the staff there, so thank you very much. And you make us, sometimes you make us look better than we are for the things that you do for us. So thank you very much.
And I'm
Thank you.
sure I don't have to say thank you. I thank you every time you do something for me, which is every day. Thank you.
So, did you want us to record your birthday now so all of these things could transpire into physical thanks? Or? All right. Thank you so much, and we again appreciate each and everything that you do, and we hope that you'll be with us many, many, many more years. And Michelle back there, thank you very much. All right, I just lost my place on my page here. What do we have up next, Mr. Fricker?
So we have the municipal court judges up next.
All right. How did I do that? And we'll ask folks from judicial, when you come up, just please at the offset, we'll have you introduce yourself. I believe you know everyone here, but that will help.
Can you guys hear me? I don't know if well, good afternoon. I'm Judge David Hamilton, and I am the administrative presiding judge this year. That's why you guys see me here. I know a lot of you guys consider, you guys, some of you guys friends. Maybe until you may not be friends after the budget hearing, but no, I'm joking. But glad to be here, and we won't take up much. Just ask us, questions you have for us. Montrella, our court administrator, our court administrator is going to present to you our numbers and the things that our budget, and if you have any questions for her or I, we will answer them for you. Thank you.
Very good. Welcome, thank you.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself. I think everyone knows you, but I don't want to take anything for granted.
Good afternoon. I'm Montrella Jackson. I'm the court administrator at Akron Municipal Court, and I will try to talk louder because usually I know there's people online. So we are thankful for the opportunity to present and review our accomplishments from the previous year as well as our goals for this year. As you know, we still have two very big items. We have the pending case management system project, and we have the court building project, which we are happy to share that's on schedule. And the case management system, we're still working through that, but we're confident in the this year we will have a new case management system. So our budget reflects the same head count that we've had for several years now, and looking in comparison, you should have gotten a chart that we usually kind of graphed out how we compare to Dayton and Toledo, and was surprised looking at the head count in terms of the numbers because technology has expanded, and some of the pretrial services, some of the criminal services that we have all expanded. And you will see, even though Akron Municipal Court is usually in the center in terms of numbers between Dayton and Toledo, we have been outpaced by the other municipal courts. So just always want to share that because we like to share that we are always doing a lot more with less staffing and with the big projects we have. So I'm looking at our case numbers. We are still recovering from the pandemic, but in most areas the numbers are going back up in terms of the evictions, the traffic cases, and the criminal and civil cases as well. So we still have the 6 specialized dockets as well as 3 new specialized programs, which one created by Judge Hamilton, the Compass program, and then also we have the Connect program, which is for offenders with disabilities. So, I usually share a lot of the same background, but I'm excited this year for the new building, as I know the judges are too, and so with getting those 2 projects accomplished, that would be certainly a feat this year. So we'd be happy to take any questions that the group has for us today.
Okay, again, we'll open up to committee members first, and then we'll move on to other council members. Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First question is for my friend Judge Hamilton. Still friends after the budget hearing. So I know one thing that has been discussed over the years is the housing mediation program. And we had a grant from the state of Ohio, from the, I think, the Ohio Supreme Court. Can we talk about kind of where we are? I'm not sure if the funding has run out. I know there were some discussions that we had last year. Can you just kind of give us an update?
Sure. And I'll let Montrella answer some of the questions about the funding. But we do have we have the funding for a mediator, and actually we're going to hire a mediator within the next few weeks. However, we still would like to start a housing court because of the number of evictions have, it's almost insurmountable, the amount of evictions that we have. So we still would like to start and get funding for a housing court. We think it's necessary, especially since COVID. We've seen our numbers have gone up. Montrell, anything you want to add about that?
Sure, and we'd like to add that we would really like the local support. The Supreme Court did, through the Criminal Justice Office of Public Safety, through the Governor's Cabinet, did fund through ARPA the mediator position, so that's how we're getting that. And then also the AmeriCorps, we have a AmeriCorps Vista, which is a position that we had not shared with you. It's new as of last July. They funded a position to help us gather self-help resources. So we're getting there little by little, but with the case numbers going back up, it would be wonderful if we could get more local support.
Thank you very much. The funding that you mentioned at the state level, when does that run through?
So that is a 2-year grant, so we're only funded for 2 years worth of, it also is funding our case management system.
Okay, and what's the amount there? I'm sorry for all the questions.
So it was a $425,000, about $85,000 is for the first year of the salary for the mediator and the fringe benefits.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Jackson. I know this is something we've all talked a lot about, but I do agree, Judge Hamilton, we should all be able to get around a table and put our heads together, and especially when we see the eviction filings going way up, and inflation has only made it more difficult for folks to pay their rent. So I hope this is something we can address.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
This is probably a question for Mr. Fricker. Why was there so little expended out of the supplies category last year? Was there something that was anticipated that didn't happen, or?
So which page are you looking at?
I'm looking at page 81. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the
Okay,
total
so
wrong
that's
page.
on
I should
the
have asked that
clerk's
question a
office,
moment ago.
and
yeah.
I have an answer for you, but we'll wait until Ms. Walsh
Okay,
is
that's
here.
fine, yeah. Okay, any other questions from other committee members? Ms. Holland? Okay, we've gone through committee members, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, Ms. Jackson, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming. I'll try and keep it friendly, too. I'm interested in unpacking a little bit around the labor number, and specifically understanding, as I do, what you just said, Judge, about the increase in evictions. Can you talk a little bit about where you are in terms of staffing of magistrate positions, how this breaks out, whether there's been an increase over last year, whether you anticipate more magistrates? Where are we with magistrates, and how are we using them?
Well, so we have 6 magistrates.
We have the 2 magistrates that are designated small claims,
Right.
and then we have the judicial associates too.
So, right,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So our magistrates are really, truly, they're working hard, and with the eviction cases, again, with the rise in eviction cases, they're really overworked. They really are, with the amount of, the high volume of evictions that we've had. But we're, like, as Montrella said, we're learning to do a lot with a little, but the evictions have really swelled over the past few years. So we would, we would like to get more magistrates, but however, we understand that we have a budget and we have to stay within where, what we have.
So you have 6 now, is that right?
Yes, we have 6.
So each judge has a magistrate, or?
No, so we have 3 court-wide magistrates, and then some of the judges have magistrates, some have judicial attorneys. So I have a magistrate, I believe Judge Larson has one, but his is part-time. Judge Cable has a judicial attorney, Judge Williams has a magistrate, and I believe Judge Walker has a magistrate, and Judge Oldham has a judicial attorney. So each judge has his or her own staffing, and some of us have magistrates, some don't. But however, what our magistrates do is, because there is a huge volume of cases, including traffic and those things, our magistrates will come down and help the court-wide magistrates as well with research, with taking the bench, and whatever else the magistrates need. So really, essentially, I have a personal magistrate, but she also will fill in for another judge who doesn't have a magistrate, or a judge, or if there's an eviction hearing or something of that nature. And what we have is because each judge has visiting judge days. However, some of the judges that we used to use have fallen off the list. One of our judges that we used a lot, he died, and some of them have retired. So the magistrates that we have now are personal magistrates. If we need to take a vacation, they take the bench, or if another judge may need to take a vacation, sometimes those magistrates will fill in for that judge for those visiting vacation hours. So really, when they're not doing evictions, they're covering for us if we're on vacation, or if, like, for instance, we have to have a certain number of CLE hours, or if we have to present, in Columbus for whatever reason, they will fill in for us. So, I mean, the magistrates that we have, they're being utilized for multiple purposes.
And I would say, from a budget standpoint, from 2014 to the present time, by having the magistrates, there's less turnover in the positions. We have had a savings of visiting judges. Their per diem is it's almost, I think, like $400 a day. And we merged the 2 law clerk positions that each judge used to have at the time. And then the magistrates are able to cover to where we're not calling in retired judges. And like the judge indicated, there's a need across the state for visiting judges. So we've been able to carry out the work of the court. And so, and also I would like to know the 2 small claims magistrates, their salaries are paid partially by the county per statute. It's 60% city and 40% county. So when you see that position, it's not the full budget.
Sure, I understand. Do magistrates actually preside over trials?
Yes and no. It depends on the judge, but yes, over some trials they do, or hearings they do.
And Ms. Jackson, are you able to tell the group what the starting salary is for a magistrate?
So the salary...
Ms. Jackson, nice and close.
Okay, sorry, I'll get a little
That's
closer.
fine.
So I believe currently the salary ranges, and we do comparatives with Cleveland, Dayton, and Toledo. The ranges, I would say, from about anywhere from 40 to 80, depending on whether they're the number of years of experience. So I would say most of them, when they get to the point of magistrate, it's around 60,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Samples?
We're gonna work on it.
I do it too. I do it too.
We're gonna work on it. Okay, we're gonna work on it. Thank you.
I even wrote it down.
We're gonna work on it every day. So a couple questions on the equipment expenses. I've noticed that the the jump from 2022 to 2023. Can you explain that a little bit?
I'm sorry, in which area?
On the equipment expense. On page 73.
So Steve, which
That
line
is,
item
so
is it?
those are computer purchases. So what our IT department put in this year is we're going to go on a 4-year computer replacement cycle. So they literally have a list of every computer in the city, and they identified each person's PC by age, and so we dropped a number into each budget where there were going to be PC replacements. So this is what's hitting in the judge's budget, this is all for PCs.
Okay, and another question, I don't know, it may be within somewhere in the budget, with this impending move to OKSIC, is there a line item in the budget for live streaming for their Zoom when they're in that contact with the jailhouse? How are they, is that within the budget for them when they move? Because that could be a,
So it's not in this budget, it's in the project budget that we are doing, yeah.
okay.
I will share, though, that we are part of the Summit County Virtual Courtroom Project, which the initial Zoom was funded through the federal monies that they received. But in the future, like Steve is saying, we would need the Zoom. But, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. Mr. Malik?
Thank you. Ms. Jackson, could you, outside of this, provide us, council, with like the monthly eviction filings for the last year?
Yes, I sure can. And actually, I was looking at what we provided last year, and I wanted to just note to the group that when you see I think sometimes people get confused when they see the filing numbers. So what we will send to you is not only what was filed, but the actual writs that were issued. And that, I think, is a big disservice to exactly what's going on with the whole eviction process. So we will get that detailed to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Fusco?
Thank you, and thank you for all you do, Judge, and I'm sure we'll be friends after this, all of us together here. And Montrella, thanks for all your help with regards to the housing piece that we've been working on as a council.
Absolutely.
My question is, though, it's, I don't know if it's directly in this budget or not, but I think a lot of us have been curious about, what's going on with the community service hours. We used to work together in terms of, working with Keep Akron Beautiful and many of our departments in terms of picking up, areas around the city, as well as the snow removal on bridges, et cetera, things along those lines. And I know that was a result of COVID, and we're all still kind of coming out of it, but just curious where we're at on that.
So, of course, with the pandemic, the numbers had slowed down. I believe we had done some work with the service department. I really think the issue at this point is connecting with Keep Akron Beautiful and like just going back through the process. And it's one of those things that, we worked with the service director, and there actually was a meeting last year, but you're right, that's something we need to look at.
Yeah, and we're happy to help from our side, that's for sure, because, it's, and we're also cognizant of the continued COVID concerns out there, but thinking that maybe we could get that moving again, that would be very helpful for our city. Thanks.
And I will say, depending on, each judge has their ruling on, on sentencing. I do know that Keep Akron Beautiful is at the top of my list, and I've sent people for, a community service there. But again, with COVID, it made things difficult, especially for a lot of our older litigants. They can't, they're restrained on what they can do. So sometimes the people that I've sent to Keep Akron Beautiful, they just can't do some of the work that's available to them for community service. So we have to find a different way to do that. So that also plays a part in it as well.
Good. Yeah, and we also, and thank you for that, but we also stand ready to support. I think there's a lot of folks here in terms of that housing court piece, and I know there's a lot of moving parts to getting something like that moving, but I know it's on top of mind here. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Thank you. Entertain any more questions? Thank you.
I'd just like to say, was selected by my peers to be the administrative judge this year, and I do want to work together with City Council, even after this meeting, like as you said, Councilman, with regard to Keep Akron Beautiful, and even other things. I just want to keep you guys apprised of things. That way, throughout the year, you know, when we come to the next budget hearing, we can still be friends. So I want to continue to work with you all, and I really want to do things. I really want to have a close relationship with City Council during my tenure as administrative judge. So if you, please feel free to reach out to my office or Montrella, and for even things like, you know, with our mediator, once we find out, you know, how that's going, or even with our evictions, I want to, you know, have another meeting, or just so we can keep, you know, abreast of everything that's going on. So for next year, everyone's kind of already on the same page with our numbers and where we are. So thank you for having us.
Those are great words. Thank you very much. Mr. Malik?
Just want to continue the dialogue with the judge by saying, you know, one thing that might be appreciated is if there's a day that maybe some of us can come over and sit through some, particularly of the eviction hearings. I think that would be really helpful.
We welcome that, and that way you guys can get a full flavor of Akron Municipal Court evictions. But we welcome that, and that's a great point, Councilman, and we love to do that. And again, it's just extending that olive branch to City Council, that you guys can come over or view our hearings on Zoom, because you guys are over our budget, so you should know and should see what's going on. So,
excellent. Year by year, I just want to say this to both of you, year by year, I've always been amazed at the amount of work that's pumped out of Akron Muni Court that has significantly lower numbers than, say, a Toledo, and yet the amount of work that you're producing, and that continues. So, where they say this and more will do. So thank you very, very much.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you. We'd ask if you would please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Debbie Walsh, the Clerk of Courts, and I just wanted to thank Council President Somerville, who I don't see, but and Budget Chairman Freeman and the rest of the Akron City Council members for allowing us here today and opportunity to present what we've done and what we hope to do at the Akron Municipal Court Clerk's office. Our major goals for 2023 would be, one, to continue to work with our wonderful Muni Court judges and our court administrator, our project managers, the municipal court IT, and the city IT people to successfully implement the new case management system. We also, ideally, and this is where we may not be friends after the, no. Want to continue to work with the Judicial Division, the Akron Finance Department, the architects, the OCASIC management team, and specifically probably Tab Jeter to implement the most cost-effective and efficient relocation of our physical case files. And that is an issue. It is not going to be an inexpensive process. And the issue, though, is that our case files have to be available 24/7. If we move on Saturday and court doesn't open until Monday, we still have things that could happen on Sunday, and we would need to access the files. So we need a very positive system, and the estimate we have is about $375,000. So that is not in this budget. I think it's a capital issue, but I just wanted something to call your attention to it because it's not in the building process. And honestly, if my files don't get over there, I don't know if we'll get over there because we can't make it work without them. So just, that's a big umbrella item that I just felt the need to call to your attention. we'll get back to the more positive aspects. We want to continue to work with the Judicial Division, APD, Akron City, and Court IT, and the rest of the team in order to facilitate the move over there. But the biggest part of the move, I made the file move a separate issue just because it is so integral into how our office operates that I need it to be, we want the whole move to be efficient, but without the files over there, it will be very difficult to make this work. And last but not least, we want to, so we have 3 big things going on: the new case management system, the move to the building, and I think we're getting very close to actually being able to reinstitute the school zone camera program. We've got a lot of development. We are now waiting on the camera vendor, Vera Mobility, for some issues with them, but we've worked out the development on it, and it's very possible that that could be going live again shortly. So those are our big goals for 2023. And what else can I answer for you?
The moving of the file, you talking about physically picking up a box?
It's packing them, moving them, and it's also, we're going to have to build a rail system in. Several of them are on it's a crank system, but so that the file's compact. That alone is, so ideally, and what really has to happen, because that's a part that if we take them off the rails, try to move the rails over, put them back on their rails, we're going to have problems. I can tell you, because I've worked with this kind of system in the retail world in a past life, and I know what it was like anytime we moved it. It was our storage racking system within the warehouse, and if we moved it, it suddenly doesn't operate quite as well. But the biggest issue is I need new rails, and that can be installed in the building process so that when we go to do it, they can pack up the cases in a way that can easily be unpacked. Or if I needed to find something, I could say to them, hey, I need this case, and they would be able to find the 1 millionth box that had that case in it. But it would be then we will take the existing racks that we have and put them on the new rails. So it's new rails, the racking, packing, moving. It breaks down into the active and daily files on my 7th floor comes out to 95,508. The active and daily files on the 8th floor comes out to 84,742. And then there is long-term archive storage area, which is up on our 10th floor. That will be going to the lower level in the new building. That's 195,000, give or take. And then there's, I will throw in one for Montrella because the probation department will need some, and theirs is, depending on which configuration they go with, is between 20,000 and 54,000.
And I'm really ignorant. And what does the law say about digitizing these records?
Pardon?
What does the law say about digitizing these records?
We are actually, my understanding is before COVID, we were in the process of starting it, and we can do some, but even that is not going to be cheap. And so, and many of these records are still active in.
Okay, let me come with the committee first, and do we have any questions from the committee? Okay, I don't see any. I will, I'll come to you, Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Ms. Walsh. So I'm a practicing attorney in my other life, and candidly, I don't practice in Akron Muni Court, but I practice in a number of other courts. I understand that the case management system that you are currently working on, for which you received grant funding, I would imagine involves digitizing current open files, right?
That's a yes and a no. We will be on a system, but we are not right off the bat, going to be 100% paperless. So we are working towards it, but it won't be right off the bat.
Okay. But it is within, I imagine, your near or long-term plan
Oh,
to-
absolutely. Yeah, we're not trying to get rid of it, but the issue is that we have all these files, and we will need all these files the day we move.
Sure, there's definitely a record retention issue here. But to
Because
my-
we are shredding I've got a bin in the 8th floor office right now that's about 80% full. So as we can, we are eliminating what can be, what we are allowed to.
And what's the line in the sand? How far back do you retain?
Please allow me to get back to you with the exact.
That's fair, that's fair.
Number on it.
I guess my question comes from, and I want to make sure I understood your statement. You indicated that moving these files comes in at about $375,000, right?
That was,
But
yes.
that's not reflected in this budget document?
It's not reflected in this budget.
Okay, and it shows up in the capital budget?
I believe that's probably,
So this is one that we are looking to see where it fits in with the rest of the OCASIC project budget, and I suspect we're going to have to come back and add some funds for this. But we're trying to see, kind of, because we do have some still unresolved things with still with the project budget, so we're trying to see where this might fit in with that, and, where the best place to budget this moving of the files would be. But it is not reflected in this budget, correct?
and I just felt the need to bring it to your attention, knowing
I appreciate it.
that it could be an issue. I mean, and I know that that we are still working on what's going on with the OCASIC budget, but every time I talk to them, they keep telling me they don't know it. But my other issue is that I would like to be able to give or bid out or get the contract to do it, because every time I hear it, the prices could go up, steel prices could go up, everything could happen. So they gave this to me last fall, and I don't want to suddenly deciding to move and get the funding approval and find out that it's a whole different number, or that that they can't make the time frame that we need.
Sure. And my question is really around, do we end up paying twice, in a sense, moving paper files that are destined to become digital files? So thank you for your answer, and whatever follow-up information anybody could provide, I'd appreciate.
I will get back to you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Mosley?
Ms. Walsh, as we're talking about the records, are we talking about the records just in the clerk's office on the 7th floor? Or are you talking about the records that are upstairs as well?
We're talking the 7th floor, the 8th floor, and 10.
10. That's a big move on 10.
And then there's actually, but we can probably handle that, but there are also the sealed records, and they're going to go to a separate spot.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fusco?
Yeah, just curious, for years and years, your predecessor had mentioned, budgeting a lot of funds to, and I know it's apples and oranges to a large extent, but microfiche, and we're taking all these files, and we're gonna put it in the microfiche. Years and years, he'd come down and tell us all about it, and we would budget money for that. So, can you, where'd the fish go?
To whoever still has a microfiche reader.
That's the thing, but like I said, I'm not a technical.
And I will
it's
look
like,
into
you're talking
that,
about
but my
moving
guess is there are
files.
probably some things
I'm
that
just
have
curious.
been permanently scanned, and that's the ones that we have been able to, because we do dispose of records on a regular basis, but I will look into that and try and get you an answer, because I agree, it is an overwhelming.
Yeah, and that's what we would hear every budget season, and I understand, it is, digital versus, I know it's night and day, I get that, it's black and white TV versus, the modern TVs these days, but still, just like I said, for years and years, we budget funds, and we'd hear about how cumbersome that was to do, and just curious.
And I will get you the information on the retention. I can go back to a past life and tell you that, like, when I was at the Board of Elections, voter voter records, they were microfiched, but then that we still had to be a permanent record. So we still had these, and then we reached a point, now we've got it down to, we were able to finally, through the records retention schedule, lower the amount of time we had to keep some things. And, but yes, scanning them in did allow us to, after 7 or 8 years, get rid of the physical file.
Ms. Mosley?
Just piggybacking off of that a little bit, under the records retention, I don't know if maybe Montrella could speak to this, but I thought it was based off of the case, what kind of case it was, of how long it had to sit before you could destroy it, whether it was a misdemeanor or a felony or something like that. There's levels to when you can.
I agree. I know I've read that. I just,
Yeah,
I don't have it with me to quote what it is.
yeah, right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. It'd been great if we could have spent the 375 grand on scanning documents, but I know that now's not the time to be talking about that. But I think that really is something that I have no idea what it would cost to scan documents. But I think things like that get cheaper every year as with the technology.
I think technology does, yeah, the cost to do it now as opposed to 5 years ago, absolutely, I think has come down. And I will just leave you one, we're still gathering all of our total records for last year to give you some stat numbers, but we had been able to determine that, just as you saw, the areas that had an increase were in evictions and parking. And those are the two areas that kind of got shut down in COVID. So those are the two areas that had the biggest growth for us last year, but not in a, and then the other positive that I will, for Mr. Fricker, because it's something that we were working on and we talked about, we were able to, last November, raise the fee that we charge for computerization, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of the stats on where that stood. We did see that that computerization fund, so what we always called the AMSIS fund, did have a growth. January, civil was up, criminal was down a little bit, but combined it was up. But in the November, December period last year when we were seeing it, we had an 81%, civil had an 81% increase in revenue, and criminal traffic had a 32% increase in revenue. So we are trying to help the costs.
Okay. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for everything you're doing, and good luck on,
Thank
on the
you.
move and everything else. So.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right, next I think we have our good friends from HR. And again, just for the record, when you speak, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll have a recorded record then.
Can you hear me?
No, Mike.
Okay, sorry.
There
can you
we
hear
go.
me?
That's good.
Good afternoon, council members, and thank you for having us here today. I'm Yamini Atkins. I'm the HR director for the city of Akron. And today I have brought with me two of my colleagues who are also going to be presenting some information. Stacy Doty is here. She's the assistant director of HR. And I also have Myra Snipes, who is our training and diversity manager. So Myra's behind me. Since we only have 2 seats, they're going to have to switch off. So we had a very busy year last year, and a lot of good stuff that's been going on. So I thought we would share with you what we've done and answering your questions. The HR department basically it provides support and service to all areas of employment in the city. Some of our key functions include recruitment, retention, performance management, training and development, compensation management, policy procedure enforcement, benefits administration, and EEO compliance, safety, and safety compliance, and other employment-related programs. So I'm going to just focus, we've done a lot of different things last year. I think we sent to you, and you should have, I believe in the shared drive, the information about listing a variety of programs that we have implemented last year. We've been very busy, but I'm going to just emphasize a few of them here today. And so from 2022, one of our main focuses has been in the area of recruitment. In early 2022, if you recall, last year when we came here, we had, for the first time, at that time, I don't know if we had actually hired her, but we had talked about hiring our first ever recruitment and retention specialist for the city of Akron. And we have done that. She's been here now just almost a year. And it was a decision we made right after the effects of COVID, and we were talking about how nationwide, but certainly Akron being no exception, really dealing with the aftermath of COVID and applications being down, the workforce really being affected by lack of applicants and employees resigning, et cetera. So we felt we really needed to have someone here that would just focus on that area of recruitment. And we've given to you a list of a variety of things that we do in that realm. And when Emily Sweat came on board, she has really proven to be very effective. Our applicant rates, she's done so much outreach in so many different ways, our applicant rates have gone up. We've really seen considerable change. We work with the departments, and they also have been very much working closely with them and doing a lot of things with outreach as well. But we decided because of that, we actually have this year just brought on a second recruiter, because really it's made such a difference. And she is been hired recently and is going to be, her name is Fallon Forney, and she's going to be focusing primarily on safety forces. So Stacy, did you want to just say a few things about the numbers in terms of how it has made a difference here in Akron?
Right. Last year was a hard year for us. We were very busy hiring. We hired over 400 employees. That's just over 34 per month. And we actually, at the same time, were rebuilding our benefits division. We had a lot of turnover there, as other places. We had the great resignation here at the city, and we have had a lot of people reevaluating what they're doing and what they want to do moving forward. So we've been working, like Yamini said, with our recruiters, and we've been working with our managers, trying to help the managers make the employees feel like they want to stay there. We are helping them with promotions, helping them with advice, and a lot of different things. One of those things is wellness. We've had a great wellness initiative. Yamini was going to touch on the wellness committee that was started. It was slowly getting off the ground because you have to get people engaged and involved, and we've done things like free ice skating for city employees. We've focused on mental health awareness. We've publicized what benefits programs we have, and we've started new benefits programs, for instance, pet insurance, and we have a student loan forgiveness platform that we put out to our employees, where we have over 100 employees that are participating in the program, where it makes everything electronic and easier and sends reminders when they have to recertify. So we're using some of those things to help with recruitment, showing people that this is a great choice for a place of employment, because not only do you have great benefits, but you also can get your student loan debt forgiven if you work here. We also, through benefits, have been trying to maintain the costs and not let them go up any more than projected. We've been within our budget. We've rolled out a new program called Prudent RX, which helps with specialty medications. It really saves the city money, and it also saves the employee money on their copays. We haven't had all of the unions sign on because it sounds too good to be true, so they're waiting to see what happens. But in the first month of the program this year, we've already saved $27,000.
Yep. Thank you, Stacy. She touched on a lot of the really important programs that we've done through our benefits. We are continuing to expand and enhance in that area. always looking for new programs for the employees of the city. The ones that she's talked about here, the pet insurance was a new thing that we put out there, very popular. The student loan forgiveness program was very well received by employees. Many signed up, and that was also very successful. The wellness program, it was something we talked about last year when we were here, and we were just starting our wellness committee, and that has really taken off, as Stacy pointed out, and we've listed for you many things that we've done through that program, but it really is about engaging with our employees and making Akron much more cohesive and recognizing we're all a big City of Akron family here, and there's a lot of things that we can do together, and it has really made a difference here for many of the employees. So just wanted to share those positive things that have been going on. And the other point I wanted to focus on was on training. So Myra, if you want to come on up here. And one thing we did last year for the first time was put on a mandatory supervisory training program. And it's in-person training for our supervisors to really touch on topics for them to be great and effective leaders in the city, areas of employment performance, leadership, workplace diversity, conflict, and these are some of the important topics that we have done training on. And this year we're going to be doing our second one. So Myra, did you want to just talk a little bit about the success of last year's program?
Yes, thank you, Yamini. One thing, as Yamini stated, that we did differently, we strongly encourage. Prior to that, when we were in COVID, it was in person. It was not in person, it was virtual training. We kind of didn't have it mandatory, but we came out in 2022, and one of the incentives, employees had to attend all 5 training sessions to receive this pin, I am a city leader. We wanted the supervisors and manager to understand with that title as a supervisor, manager, what does it mean to be a supervisor? What does it mean to be a city leader? And as Yamini stated, those 5 courses was leadership. What does it mean to be a leader? How do you deal with conflict? We added ethics as part of this training for the first time. Diversity. And what does it mean, and what you should know as a city leader to be compliant? And that included having a basic understanding of EEO laws. No, you don't have to be an attorney, but with the role as a city leader, supervisor, you must understand what does it mean to be in compliance so you could serve as the leader. And that included, like I said, EEO laws and performance management. We also continue with our workforce development with our partnership with Stark State College. So it's no longer a secret. We are entering in the 4th year of this program. And just before I came here today, already over 60 people have applied with this tuition-free program partnership with Stark State College. So the word is out. Not only city employees can benefit for this program, there's 2 models, guaranteed open seat, but the children, IRS qualified dependent. So this is a wonderful program as part of our workforce development. Additionally, we also provided training in safe training and assessment partnership, and making certain our understanding the role as far as active shooter training. We offer that as well. And additionally, we offer training, specialized training to our workforce, for example, EEO programs. So that just tells you a little bit about as far as our supervisory training. And this year, 2023, I have provided you each a copy of our mandatory training in 2023. Now, where it says NeoGov Learn, that might be foreign to you, but we welcome if any of you would like to attend this training to send me an email, and you won't have to go through the self-enrollment through our NeoGov, which is our Human Resources Information System. So this year, there are 6 training programs that we are encouraging our supervisors and managers to attend. And this involves not only an internal facilitator, Mr. Ryan, but we also, if you look here, disability awareness, outside facilitator. Diversity, equity, inclusion, our new DEI director will provide training and understanding the foundation, what is her role. Kim Boyd, mental health first aid. As we know, mental health is a hot topic. So this training, again, Love Akron, Mr. Kemp Boyd will be the lead facilitator. And don't be afraid of that 6.5 hours that you see there. Our neighbors, the county, they overwhelmingly shared with us it was highly recommended. So this is a program we are excited to offer to our employees so they are equipped with the skills to identify how do we deal with this, that word mental health. And again, highly recommended. Kim Boyd will lead in that particular session. HR, Human Resources Roundtable. Our team, our HR team, led by our HR Director, Yamini, we will give our employees an opportunity through a roundtable discussion to ask those questions, and what we will have a panel discussion, and you see the dates here. Performance management, we have a new performance management process, and so employees will be introduced to the new performance management evaluation process and how to deliver effective performance evaluations. And last but not least, we want to make sure that our supervisors understand the process. You know, safety incident review will be added, and we have 3 locations for this training. Again, what do you do if there's an accident? What is the process? So we don't want to assume. We will have this training available. So we are excited. The majority of the training will be held at downtown main library, with the exception of the safety incident review. One will be held at our Triplet site and the other at our water reclamation. So we are, like I said, we are what I say on fire here in the HR department with our training. And when you see, again, folks walking around, they understand their assignment, their role as a city leader here. So that tells you about the training.
Thank you, Myra. That is, she's absolutely right. We are very enthusiastic in HR and really want to be there for the employees. So this is something we work around all year to plan for, and I think this year is going to be our second training, and it's going to be, I think, very dynamic. So welcome you all to please attend if you can to any of these sessions. They should be very informative. So the other thing, I think, Myra, since you're here, I'd like to also talk about something that's been very important here in the city. The city certainly recognizes that the future of our future leaders here are really the youth of our community, and getting young people involved in city government, events, getting them experiences with various service programs in Akron certainly benefits their leadership skills and gives them an early understanding of the importance of caring for their community. So the mayor has created the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council, and Myra Snipes has been leading that also. And could you please share with us some of the highlights of that, Myra, if you could, for last year?
Again, as Yamini stated, the Mayor Youth Leadership Council. In November, if you don't recall, a group of our students did visit council so they can get an idea what does it mean as far as the Mayor Youth Leadership Council. It is important that we teach our students about local government, what does it mean to be a leader and to be a champion. So I'm excited, again, in person for the first time since COVID. We started off with a kickoff with a partnership with the University of Akron, and over 75 students actually attended, and that was our recruitment for the beginning of the year. Since August, we have done some remarkable things. One, Global Ties International, where the students, several were selected to meet with international leaders. And during that time, we were asked to select some students to be a part of a forum to interact not only with the international leaders, but through Sam DeJager. They wanted our sister city in Germany. We did a broadcast, and our students were featured in that, so that was exciting. Another exciting, our Hugs and Gloves program, making sure that students understand the value of giving back. So our students citywide, we work together with our employees, and throughout the city, we gave out gift cards, winter apparel, all throughout the city. So that, to me, was a way of teaching the students the value of giving back. We also partnership with First Tee, where both the students and parents had an opportunity to learn how to play golf. From that, in the past, some of the students went on and were selected and hired to be caddies here in Akron at the Firestone Country Club and Portage Lake. Not only did they learn how to play golf, they were actually being a caddy and taking those skills, which are lifelong skills, along with the values. Cleveland Plain Dealer students were selected to be in an academy. Again, this was a competitive process, but I'm excited to share with you our students was able to receive the opportunity. And most recently, PBS, you will hear in the future, will be one of the junior reporters. So another great opportunity through the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council. And lastly, there's several things I can go on, but what I think is exciting when I hear that, I live here in Akron, had an opportunity, cultural event to go to Stan Hewitt. It's mind-boggling when I hear students right here in Akron. I never had an opportunity and had a chance to visit Stan Hewitt. And then the last thing, you think is corny, but how many of you have ever done what they call an escape room activity? Okay, so a few. So this was the first time, okay, right here on Main Street. I got the feedback, and the students, it's a team building activity. You put you in a room and you try to get out of the room. And so they had to use their mind and work together as a team. I'm proud to say a lot of people wanted to go with the football player leader, whereas they didn't want to go with the girls, but we won. So that's an example where, again, working collectively as a team, those again are life skills that they are learning through a fun way, but they also learned, someone had to be the leader. Someone had to say, why don't we do it this way and get out of what we call the escape room. So we are here, you'll see our students in the community that says, I'm a leader. And it says City of Akron, youth leader. So when you see students walking around on the campus, and I always tell them it means something to be a leader, and that's our future. And some of the ones in the past, one is now currently an officer by being in our program, a police officer. Another one is a school counselor here locally. Another of our former student currently works for Penn State, but he also had the opportunity to try out for the Browns, short-lived, but yet and still, it started right here, being a part of the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Myra. Clearly, Myra has done a great job explaining some of the things, the programs and activities that have occurred and the profound impact it's really had on the youth. And ultimately, the goal being that they've actually gotten employment from with the city and in other great opportunities, work opportunities through this program. So our goal basically for 2023 is to continue to grow and enhance the programs that we have. I didn't mention, we did also bring on another employee. He was one of our trainers last year, Ryan Glacheski, and he is a leadership development administrator here at the city, and he is really looking at our performance evaluation systems that needed a major overhaul, by the way, and is going to, has really tackled that, and we're going to be having some really good performance reviews for our employees so they get some really good feedback in their work. And we want to continue to grow these programs and provide more opportunities for our employees and just wanted to share this information. Did you have anything else, Stacy, that you wanted to add, or?
Did you talk about the newsletter?
So, yes, thank you for reminding me. So one thing that's very important to us, or I should say one of our babies, or whatever you want to call it, we really were excited as we started the City Spotlight, and many of you, I'm sure you're all on the emails for that, and we send that out monthly. We were thinking we would just do it every other month, but it ended up being in demand, so we started doing it every month, and we enjoy seeing your newsletters too, by the way, Phil. So, so we just feel it's really great to share. These are things that bring all our employees together and engage them, and had some very positive feedback. So, any questions? We're here.
I think you spotlighted one of our own here a month or two ago, Michelle Rhodes.
Oh, right.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Her career path has been in a lot of places in the city, so we wanted to encourage others to take chances and maybe look at new ideas of where they might want to work.
Yeah. Ms. Moby, I did see your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank all of you in HR. I know from experience and from reading that HR has been really flooded with trying to compete with everybody else with this shortage of employees. So it's nice to hear all the great things you're doing. Myra, I'm not sure what strongly encouraged versus mandatory means, but but I think it's a good thing to make it mandatory, because I think all of us are going through leadership training. We got a series of things we're going through at my agency. But I do have a few questions here, and if you don't have the information, please provide it at some point. You talked about hiring 400 employees thus far. Could you break it down in terms of departments, race, age? Just curious as to how we are doing in competing for talent, and how we are looking in terms of, do we reflect our community as we're doing all this hiring?
I don't have that with me. The only one I do have is for the current police and fire classes that we posted. So we've done a lot of outreach and different events, as you saw in the list that we provided. For police, historically, the numbers have been about 70% white and 30% all others. For police this time, we're at 56% white, and then we have 32% black or African American, and then the rest is made up of small numbers of other categories.
We have really, and that's really saying something. I want you to know that this outreach that I've been talking about with recruitment is so important. It's probably one of the best things we did, because it really, we are focusing not just on bringing in more qualified applicants, where we're talking about bringing in, diverse qualified applicants from all over. We are doing significant outreach in all areas of Akron, and I think it's really made a difference. And I think we're going to, that's what we really want to continue to do, which is why we have our second recruiter to get into the communities. And just, it's tough. Some of these, the issues that we have been dealing with nationally, locally, have made it tough for some of the jobs, especially in the police realm, and people are leaving. It's a reality, and having us to go out and just talk to folks in the community and share about what it means to be an officer, and it is a very noble profession to be able to do that and put your life on the line, I think, and having officers come out and talk about why this is something that is, can really be a very meaningful thing. We're making some changes. People who otherwise would not have been interested in applying for that have been doing so, and it's made a difference.
Good. So could you provide that information in terms of those areas? I know that we've been working on the Elevate Akron plan for some time now, and I don't know what the makeup of our staff is at this point. That would also be good to kind of get some type of indication as to how are we doing in terms of moving the needle and having more African Americans on staff. And I know we have the DEI person. I'm not really sure how closely she's working with HR. Is she under HR?
No, she is a separate department. Yeah, but but we are working with Tammy, and we are collaborating. Quite frankly, these concepts of DEI, it's things they're principles that are part of the entire city. They're not just one department of DEI.
Sure.
These are principles we want to incorporate in our
Oh, sure.
policies. We want to incorporate have our departments trained on these things. We want to really, this is who we are. This
Yeah.
is what Akron is, and we're going to grow that. So we are definitely working with Tammy.
Very good. I like that because I think everybody's trying to do some DEI and just want to know what that looks like here in our city. You know, we still have an issue, and I don't know, do you identify your seasonal workers, and is there a way that we check to see what their aspirations are in terms of vacancies that we may have at the city? And if you don't have this today, please, again, provide it, about how many of our seasonal workers have we hired full-time? What are we talking about? I realize that many of them may have other jobs and they just do some part-time work for us. But those who aspire to become a full-time employee, just want to know if we are making any kind of dent in that.
We actually have been making a dent, thankfully, working with finance, and the departments have been trying to get more permanent spots and less seasonals. So in our public works and utilities, we've eliminated quite a few seasonals, not eliminated them, but hired a lot of them permanent and not have so many people seasonal. We always will have positions that are seasonal in nature, like pick 40 people to pick up leaves that we don't need the rest of the year. Or the golf course laborers, that's their season, that's what they do. We don't need them at other times. But when we do have postings that these people might qualify for, we have their names, we know who they are, and we email them the opportunities specifically, because we do at the same time have positions that are pretty entry level that they could apply for and then get hired. We just have to figure out, you know, not all the things they want to do are things that we have. And like you said, some of them, this is just a part-time fun job for them. And mostly in recreation, I would say that they do things that are more, they get paid, but they also like what they do.
Sure.
And it's like, it's better than volunteering because they get money.
So you mentioned something as you were responding. If you were to hire a seasonal worker, do we use their experience as a seasonal worker as experience to determine salary and where they fall on the scale, or do they come in as an entry?
So when we're looking at compensation, the scale it depends on what the job is. It might be 3 steps, it might be 7 steps, and it depends on what the job requires. Some people might be a seasonal worker and then they take a job that's totally unrelated to their past experience.
Okay.
So they wouldn't necessarily be up on the pay scale, but if it's doing something that they were doing before, that might be taken into consideration.
Okay.
For instance, if they got hired, if
So
they're in
we-
recreation, they got hired permanent.
Right.
We would also have to look at the union contracts in terms of what the, how they would be able to fall into the
Right.
the workplace. So.
Some positions, like police and fire, that it's required that they start at the bottom. Everyone starts at the same.
I see. But if you could give a report just on what we've done with seasonal workers, in, let's say the last 6 months or so, just to see what does it look like, or even last year, whatever reflects what is happening with those individuals and how many have been hired, and
We don't have them identified. I'd have to figure out how to identify them in the system to pull the data, so that might be a manual thing.
Well, we can take a look and see just basically, we can certainly just take a look and see who our seasonal workers have been and how many we brought on the workplace. That easily, I think we
just
can.
curious as to what we're doing in that area and if we are making headway. Just one more question, Mr. Chair, and I'll rest for someone else. The student loan forgiveness program, how does that work?
So it's a federal program that has historically been very difficult to navigate. You fill out your paperwork and you have to have maintained payment on your student loans consistently. There are lots of rules.
Wow.
So this service is a platform where you can log on. They can give you options for refinancing. I've heard horror stories from several employees that on their own they were trying to get their loans consolidated so that they could qualify for this program, and they got taken advantage of and their money stolen. So this is a safe way for them, and the verification of employment is all electronic. It goes through to our employee records, they fill out their part, and then they're in the system and they get notified when they need to recertify, so they keep up on all the requirements. We were really pushing this because they loosened up the regulations a little bit for a period, and then they were going to tighten them up again, but that's until May 11th. It's still, we're trying to push, do it now so that you can get all of the value from what you've paid and the work that you've done here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and good question, Ms. Amobian. Just remind everyone, if we can, let's try to keep on numbers questions. I actually, as I heard Linda, as I heard Ms. Amobian asking questions, I realized myself, I should come down your way. I should come down your way more, and because you're just doing a host of things here. So.
Absolutely, you're all welcome.
And I think I was coming to, I believe, I think you were next, correct? Okay, thank you, Ms. Mosley.
Just a brief question. I noticed for the 2023 budget, you're budgeting for 2 extra employees, and there's a significant increase in the budget from last year of like $475,000 and some change. Can you explain that increase?
Well, one of them is we have the 2 recruiters, the brand new positions, and the leadership development administrator. Those are new positions for us. I'm trying to think. Last year was a pretty lean year in our benefits division. We had lost in 2021. We lost almost all the employees from that division, and so we had some vacancies for most of last year, and so we did replace them, and we're almost at full staff now.
And that's the reason for the increase? It's like
in
almost
salary?
$500,000.
Steve might be able to answer that.
Yeah, so, and I'll have to look at this, but oftentimes, so potentially last year, because we had vacancies, I budgeted some positions for part of a year, knowing that, we budgeted the position, but because there was a vacancy, maybe it would have been, later June or July into the year, and therefore the dollars associated with the 22 budget were a little bit lower.
And what about on the rentals and leases? There's a significant jump there, like over $100,000, $150,000.
Okay, so that has to do, that's the NeoGov software. So that, some of that is basically where it was shown last year. So last year it was shown as under the service contracts. So that is our software that we use for our onboarding and recruiting, processing all the personnel requisitions and that type of thing. So that is now down in the rentals and leases because it's considered a subscription-based software service.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And now I'll come to, in order, Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ladies, for a very helpful, very informative presentation. I appreciate you all so much. So just quickly, I just want to confirm what I think I heard, the mandatory supervisor training for which you provided us all this brochure. Each of these modules would be available for members of City Council to attend?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I would encourage my colleagues to have a look. Specifically, there's a frequent mention of a desire for training or retreat attention given to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what a wonderful resource to have here in-house. I would only add, and Yamini and I go way back, working in the same primary concentration of the law, that not only are these courses a good idea, but this is exactly how we protect the city and educate each other, educate ourselves, so that we're in compliance with not just good ideas, but the law, right? So thank you so much. This is wonderful. I'd like more copies of this.
Sure, we can get that to you.
Going to try and keep moving quickly because I know it's time sensitive here. With police recruiting, and I guess we'll talk about the creation of these 2 new positions for recruitment and retention. Are we casting a broader net than we have been in the past in terms of perhaps reaching out to historically black colleges and universities, getting outside of what has been the we always did it this way kind of network?
So I will say that as long as I've been here, we did not have much of a budget for recruitment. We didn't have recruiters, and we had to reach out to the department and pretty much say, can you give me the money to do this? And this last year or so, we have definitely been casting a wider net because we're going to events, because all the people that were doing the recruiting before were also bogged down with all the work of the daily tasks that we have to do. They couldn't network, they couldn't, that was
Understood.
kind of, we have to do what we have to do first and then that. So yes, we're definitely doing that. We're building relationships. We do a lot of virtual career fairs too, where we're, there's a website called Handshake that a lot of major universities subscribe to. So we're in there, and there are historically black colleges in there. There's some that have job fairs. I know that I think there's one coming up soon that we're going to. So it's been wonderful to have a little bit more money and resources and staff.
Yeah, more people to do this. No, it's a big job, and I appreciate that. I'm wondering, is it your function, Yamini, or your office's function to keep an eye on overtime use across all departments? Is that part of what you guys do?
I mean, really, that's more of the department finance that does
Department
that.
by
They will
department.
keep track of it. I mean, we have our payroll person that would put in the information, but in terms of monitoring, hey, this department is, this is unusual. Why are we seeing such an increase here? It's something actually between HR and finance we'd be discussing, but I think finance would be monitoring that.
Okay. Does your office, are you consulted, or do you weigh in on issues around things like flex time, creating different work schedules other than the normal 8 to 4?
So we don't have very much leeway with that because there's an ordinance that is a work hours ordinance that strictly says anything over 8 hours is overtime.
Right.
There are some unions that have bargained other work schedules.
Okay.
And so when we can, we do that, but labor relations and the unions, we all have to work together to establish these because it might be outside of that wage hours ordinance.
So appreciate that, and that is, what I would expect to hear. So let me narrow it a little bit. So I'm talking about somebody who is overtime eligible, okay? Not a member of a bargaining unit. The work schedule is such that every Monday night, this person is obliged to perform work outside of the standard 8 to 4 schedule. Is there anything that you can think of that would prohibit this person from just regularly coming in at 12 or 1? In other words, rather than triggering an overtime
Yeah, I
issue.
understand. So, I mean, that's something that would be a question for that department to come to HR and say, we'd like
Okay.
to do we'd like to adjust this person's work schedule.
Okay.
We don't need them here from 8 to 4. We'd rather start
So
them
that
at
would be
1
you
to
guys.
8, whatever it is. So we certainly could and can do something like that with non-bargaining. And Stacy's right, as far as some of the bargaining unit, obviously, we have overtime provisions in the contract.
Sure.
And so there's less, we can't really unilaterally
Less
do things.
flexibility,
Yeah.
sure. Okay, very good. And just in conclusion, I just want to say thank you for the Mayor's Youth Leadership Organization, and I just want to say that you can add another credential to that impressive dossier of graduates. My youngest, captain in the United States Marine Corps, loved the youth leadership program.
Oh, that's great.
It's wonderful. If we did nothing else in this city, I would say we should continue doing that. It's a terrific program. Thank you all for all you do. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I do see Mr. Neal's hand. Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wanted to piggyback on Ms. Amobian where she asked for the racial breakdown in departments. Don't know if she asked for the racial breakdown of what we call part-time or seasonal employees. Not so much seasonal. I'm thinking more so of part-time employees, specifically in like Park and Rec. If we could get a breakdown of the number of part-time employees there, the racial breakdown, and in relation to those who, she asked about those who have asked for opportunities of employment, if we can get a breakdown of, the length of time that they've been there, please.
when you say part-time, are you referring to permanent part-time? Because we...
However, be a permanent part-time, because they want to work full-time, but they can't, they haven't had the opportunity to be promoted to a full-time position. I know this is something I've been working with I was working with the Human Relations Department, it's been over 2 years now, trying to get this information, because of, folks within Park and Rec who wanted to work full-time, wanted to be considered for promotion, and just quite frankly, they finished first on the test, but they never got the promotion. So if we can get that breakdown, please. And then, with us looking at the noble act of addressing, those who have been adversely impacted by healthcare, get an idea of how many of those folks that are working part-time for the city, and have been working, because I know there's some that have decades of service and have never been hired full-time. Just survey them and see if they've been impacted adversely because of that fact, if they have any medical debt, so that as we build this out, council has the right to assign, allocate dollars to this initiative. We can know how many of our employees we'd be able to assist right off the bat.
So, and just to, we'll trying to follow exactly what you're looking for, but, just to explain, we have people in positions, they hire on to be part-time, they may hire on to be temporary, they want to apply for full-time, they can apply for full-time. To say that people are entitled to become full-time because they happen to be temporary, we do not, have those types of rules. They may have gotten an opportunity to do a temporary position. If they want to apply for a full-time position, if there's openings for full-time, we do not discourage anybody from doing that. And again, they're in the pool of applicants, just like everybody else that applies for that full-time position. So we don't have preference for someone just because they worked in a temporary role. There's a lot of moving parts to how people get into positions and temp positions and part-time positions. And we don't have a breakdown of people who are adversely impacted. We don't have, what's considered adversely impacted. People are in the positions they're in, and they have opportunities to apply for jobs throughout the city. And I understand that if you want to see a breakdown of who currently is the makeup of people in the positions, we can provide that demographic.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, for a city, we're talking about establishing equitable policies, equitable practices, equitable opportunities. We have to keep these metrics so we can know if we're meeting our goals. And because, and I've spoken to this, I've sent in letters regarding this, because I've been contacted by city employees who feel that they have been adversely impacted, not considered for promotions. They finished first on a promotions test. They want to know why they weren't selected, why they weren't promoted. We need to address those things. So since Mr. Mobian asked those questions, I think it's just right that we look at it holistically and make sure we create opportunities for those part-time employees who have applied for promotions but haven't been selected. Because as you mentioned, there's moving parts. And one of the things that they've said is that the target seems to shift depending on who they want, who they're trying to get into a position. So if we can have that information, that'd be helpful.
We can definitely give you the current breakdown of the demographics of the racial demographics, or the racial breakdown, I'm sorry, of individuals in the positions. We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm very aware we're wandering into program things here, and we're here to talk about numbers, and Mr. Neal had some great questions, but we're probably, if there's no other questions, thank you. The sense I get here is you all enjoy what you do. You really enjoy what you do, so thank you. I think each and every one of us would say thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. All right, we're going to move on here, and this, well, you talk about an area where we could all chime in and ask this and ask that, and I would encourage us to, record some of those questions that come to our mind, follow up with department heads, but now as we look at neighborhood services, public service, we could run down 1,000 valuable rabbit holes, and we just want to try to keep on task as much as we can with our questions being related to the budget. And welcome, please introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. My name is Euphren C. Lash, and I'm the Deputy Service Director and Director of Neighborhood Assistance. I brought my colleagues here with me this afternoon to share in some of our work over 2022, to share some of the things we were able to accomplish and some of our goals for 23, which I believe you may have been provided. I will try to keep my comments as concise and as formative as possible, but I'm very proud of the work that we have done over the last year. I think we've made some strides in the Department of Neighborhood Assistance. And again, as I shared, I brought my team, and I'm going to share the platform this afternoon with them so they can kind of break down what they've done in their respective areas, if that's okay. The first one, I actually have brought my colleague, Mr. Dwayne Grigger, who actually is the Housing Administrator for Housing Compliance Division. And Dwayne, would you mind sharing? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lash. Good afternoon, council members. I've provided a more detailed list of accomplishments of the Housing Compliance Division along with 2022 goals and objectives and the goals and objectives for 2023. But I did want to give a brief overview of some of our accomplishments from 2022, if I could. We were able to conduct over 5,300 housing inspections and brought over 600 properties into compliance. 5,300 inspections and 602 properties were brought into compliance through those efforts. We were also able to increase participation in the rental registration program and complete a competitive bidding process that took up a good chunk of the year to bring on some new contractors for the demolition program. Even though that took up a good chunk of the year, we were still able to increase the number of houses that we demolished over 2021. All of these accomplishments reflect the hard work of the Housing Compliance Division employees who were able to accomplish all of this with little or no overtime. For 2023, we have a number of goals. We have completed the hiring and training of 4 additional inspectors. We're working with them to rebalance some of the caseloads. They're working out very well. We're also very excited to begin implementation of online registration of short-term rentals. We can thank Emily Collins. Is Emily still here? Emily Collins was instrumental in assisting us in that effort, and we hope to have that online registration ready to go soon. And that's my report for 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Mr. Chair, I know Mr. Grigger had a long-standing commitment this afternoon, so if there are any questions for him for either you or members of council, if you don't mind asking those questions now, because I told him I would try to get him out of here.
If you could buzz by 9:80, no, I'm just kidding. Thank you. Dwayne, thank you so much. I know it's been a yeoman's task for years, so. Okay, let me come to Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Geiger. Thank you, Mr. Lash. We are all friends because of the work that we're doing around housing with this council, but really want to take a second to thank Mr. Geiger for attending the focus team meetings that we've been holding monthly. I know it's additional time, but we really do appreciate it. Specifically, I know we have had some conversations, but want to make sure that we have the discussion for full council about the need for technology upgrades, particularly in housing inspections. I know these are typically done with pen and paper now, and that we really would like to get iPads and get technology upgrades for this. I would really like to see this included in this budget. It doesn't appear that it is included in the budget. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are looking at options. We've talked to our IT department to see exactly what options would be available. We're looking to possibly add that to a future budget. We would have to get with finance to see what would be most appropriate
Okay.
at the appropriate time.
Okay. I would ask our council that we could consider whether this is a priority we can make for this year. You know, council has really said this is a central priority, and, you know, our housing focus teams have identified this as one area where we could make immediate impact. And, you know, one of the biggest issues with housing inspection is that we just don't have enough folks, and it takes a long time to train them and get them up to speed because we have such a detailed and robust process. I really think this is an area where we can make an immediate investment that will pay dividends.
Thank you, Mr. Malik. And let's, right now, we'll hold our, we'll try to let Mr. Greger get out of here. So if there's any questions directly for Mr. Greger regarding budget items, right now would be a good time so we can let him out. Yes, Ms. Mosley.
Very quick, Dwayne, I'll get you out of here, I promise. On the demolition side, I see there's a fund set up through the CDBG. How much, do we have a line item set aside specifically for demo? Because I know there's like a little over 2,000 houses on the demo list currently. Can you give me an accurate number? And do we have money set aside specifically for that?
Okay, yes. We currently have a little over 200 in the queue.
Okay.
For a backlog of demolitions. The CDBG budget figures you see are for properties that are demolished via voluntary waivers.
So you said on backlog, but total, how many houses, vacant houses do we have on the registry? Do we know that? Or are they even in the queue to be demolished at this time, or are they still going through the neighborhood assistance? I mean, the planning department, the housing planning department, to see if they're gonna have waivers or they're gonna be raised?
Well, at any given time, we have about 2,000 active housing cases.
Right.
Normally, a little over half of those are considered vacant, but only a very small percentage of those vacant properties meet our criteria for demolition. We have probably 30 to 50 properties that we've identified for future submission to the Housing Appeals Board with a recommendation that they be ordered demolished. But the remainder of the demo queue are properties that have already gone through that process.
Okay, okay. I'll shoot you an email offline. I won't make you late. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Greger?
Thank you for the info. You said we have 5,300 residential facilities that we have inspected or are inspecting.
Okay, when I say that we conducted 5,300 inspections, that means that a housing division employee stopped a car in front of a property, got out and inspected that property. Okay. Now, of those 5,300, it could have been the same property being inspected 10 times.
Oh.
Like I said, we have about 2,000 active cases at any given time, and we do multiple inspections on those properties until they're brought into compliance.
In 1 year, you would do multiple?
Okay. We visit some properties up to 12 times a year if they're a problem, if they're continuously being broken into and need to be resecured. Some properties we may only get to once in a year because they're not generating any new complaints, or we're giving the owner a lengthy time to complete the repairs.
And you said 602 that were completed.
Right, that means 602 properties that we had issued repair orders to, we went back and found that the repairs had been completed or the house had been demolished.
Okay, okay. I totally agree, Mr. Chair, with Councilman Malik, that whatever we can do in the budget to set aside funds for whatever computerized equipment you need to do your job as quickly as possible and as efficiently, because this has become a real nightmare. People calling, and we have these out-of-town landlords who are not following through on infractions. So whatever we can do to set aside whatever amount, that would be great, because this is really a problem. Thank you very much for what you've done.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, any questions that might come up or arise after Dwayne's departure, feel free to email. We will provide those answers right away.
Okay.
Okay?
Excellent. Dwayne, thanks for everything you do. Thanks so much, bud.
Mr. Chair, there's a hand raised online.
Oh, I'm
Councilman Neal
sorry.
has his hand raised.
Mr. Neal?
Yes, sir, I'll make it real quick. Thanks for everything you do. Just out of the complaints that you get, if we can have a list of the most notable ones that could be shifted in some type of minor home repair, this will give us an idea of what the major issues that don't come into compliance that, as we develop programming, could be funded in some kind of minor home repair program. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. I can say that we refer owner occupants that we deal with on a daily basis to any assistance programs that are available. When the home repair program was announced last year, we sent letters to every owner-occupied dwelling that had outstanding housing orders and encouraged them to apply for that program and let them know that if they had an active application with that repair program, that we would conduct no enforcement activities against them until that was completed.
Thank you. Just at a later date, if we could just know what the major minor home repair complaints that you get. Is it like screens out of windows? Is it shingles off of a roof? And hopefully we can put ourselves in a position to where we can fund that. I know I have organizations in my community that are looking to assist, but then as council, we can potentially look to fund a program like that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Malik?
Just very briefly, Mr. Greger, I know for one of the focus team meetings, you had a breakdown of the most common kinds of housing complaints and violations. I think maybe that would be something that could be shared. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Greger. Next, I'd like to bring up Mr. Thomas Tatum, who actually is the Housing and Rehabilitation Manager for our Housing and Community Services Division, and we've made a lot of strides as well. Thomas also serves as the project manager for our Akron home repair program as well. So he's been doing that since the implementation of the home repair program. So, Mr. Tatum?
If you don't mind, I'll stand. Afternoon, everyone. As Mr. Lash pointed out, our office deals with the current lead program, lead 4, that will be concluding later this summer. And also we were responsible for the minor home repair program by a third party, and also general housing repairs that have been in the past by the city of Akron. And currently I am the project manager / liaison with G. Stevens Inc. In terms of the ARPA housing repair program. With me I have Mr. Douglas Taylor, who serves as the lead manager for our current lead program. On our previous lead programs, we've been blessed to be funded by FLOR. And I have to congratulate he and his team, even through the pandemic, through supply chain issues and everything else, even changing how the way we have inspected houses through the pandemic. We are online to not only meet our goal of having 250 units of housing in the city of Akron be lead safe, but they are online to exceed that goal. You have our compendium, so I won't belabor or anything else like that, but we are available for questions.
Questions for Mr. Tatum? Mr. Moby?
Could you talk a little bit about, I know that you have a goal of 250, and we've had 2,000 people or whatever apply for this fund. The average home is costing about what in terms of repair? And
sounds like you're conflating, you're confusing two different programs. The lead program.
No, home repair.
The Akron home repair program, correct. Okay. Yeah, we have over 2,200 applications that have come in, both Group A. Group A, we received about 1,600 applicants. Group B, we received about another 700 applicants. Currently, Glenn Stevens, according to their latest quarterly report, they have inspected over 150 homes. They have about 140 that are in the process of either being inspected or in some state of repair. And as well, there'll be some completions. I'm expecting their monthly report today to give you some updated numbers. The quarterly report that they submitted came in the latest one actually had been revised, came in February. The first quarter of 2023 ends this month. So I anticipate the next quarterly report will be end of April, beginning of May.
So 150 have been completed?
150 have been inspected, have been reviewed, have been identified whether they meet the criteria or have not. Some we receive applications even this year.
Okay.
People who are applying and will not be getting assistance. Of those folks, the folks that did not qualify are folks that have been outside the city of Akron's boundaries. They've been notified that we cannot fund anything that's outside the city of Akron boundaries, or they did not meet the income criteria.
Okay.
So, and basic repair to home are probably running just about $18,000 to $19,000 per repair.
18 to 19,000?
Correct.
Oh, so it's less than the 20,000 or 25 that we set aside per home.
Well, yes, but we also have informed G. Stevens that it's necessary to understand that we have to stay below that $25,000 threshold, because once you cross that threshold, it could be considered lead. You could be dealing with lead issues. If that's the case, you're dealing with a whole different set of rules that the current folks who are contractors in the program are not ready for, and they're not trained for it. They're not certified for it. So one of the things that's going to come up later this year is once we're finished with the lead program, our staff is going to have to pivot and assist, and there's probably going to be a period of transition between G. Stevens' team and the City of Akron team. So we're going to have different requirements that we work with, that the contractors or anyone else going to be involved in this program are going to have to deal with. So that's going to be a learning curve that we're going to have to infuse with not only the current contractors that we have in place, but anyone else that wants to come in and deal with the program.
So do we have anything that would tell us, and I want to talk about the home repair ARPA dollar program, that one. And I know we're using third-party contractors and trying to use minority and all of that. Do we have any indication, is it in this budget, or where can we get the information from? Maybe you can supply later. How many contractors have we used, and what is their average compensation?
I will have forwarded the first quarterly report that's been completed and reviewed. I think that would be the first document that you could look at that will give you a breakdown of a number of different items.
Okay.
But in terms of if we can get the second quarterly report, that, like I said, that will come either end of April or beginning of May. That will be a next set of guidelines you can look at and see if that has the information that you're looking for.
Okay.
But we're meeting with them at least four times a month. I am, personally, so.
Thank you very much.
Please do.
Mr. Fricker, I talked to you and Mr. Lash both. Anything significant here in these budgets that pop out at us that we definitely need to know, that we might overlook? I mean, Tom, how long have you been working in lead?
About as long as you got gray hair.
Well, there you go. It's been that long. Thank you for everything you do. You're a real asset to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Tatum and, sorry, Mr. Fusco? Mr. Fusco.
Thanks. Mr. Tatum, you had mentioned the lead program, of course. And is the current grant from the federal government, is that expiring? Is that, where are we on that grant?
June 30th. We stopped taking applications in January.
Okay. So the money is, so I assume we're applying for more and hoping to continue the program. To what extent?
I would have to answer no to that. If you had to ask me right now, and I know Mr. Taylor and I, we've been kicking this around, given the circumstances in terms of staff, in terms of what has to be done with ARPA, in terms of the overwhelming amount of people identified in need, and I will add, in desperation, I would not feel comfortable with the staffing levels that we currently had to try to transition to ARPA and go after another lead grant. Personally, that would be ethically immoral to do, because the amount of time you have to deal with lead and the amount of contractors and the certifications they have to do and the relocation of people and dealing with the supply chain. When you have to relocate a homeowner for 2 weeks out of their home to deal with the lead issues, when you can take an ARPA case, go in, deal with the issues in the lead case and be done hopefully within a week, I take that every day. And I'd rather have staff committed to do that so we can move these cases along. Just like the lead program, ARPA has a clock on it.
Yeah.
And we have to have all those funds in terms of the repair program. And I'm not even thinking about what happens after the election in case whoever the new mayor is, they want to change the budget or whatever. We can't deal with that right now. We're dealing with the reality of right now. And the reality of right now says, understanding the staff that we have, understanding that we've been able to at least do some more outreach to try to bring in more staff, they're going to have to be trained up. And I am not going to, it would hurt us to try to say we're bringing in new people and run multiple programs. Can't be done.
Sure.
So would love to, won't do it. So if it was left up to me, we would partner with another group that will go after lead money, and I would say partner with that, because I think lead will do much more for some folks. And matter of fact, if I could, some of these ARPA people shouldn't be in ARPA. They should be in a lead program. That's how much need there is out there in these houses. So
I got you, yeah.
That's how I do it.
Some of the ARPA is addressing the lead need, is what I'm hearing from you? So some of that is able to be utilized for that?
We are not conflating ARPA with lead money. Even though there's some jurisdictions that are doing that, that's because they have the wherewithal and staff to do it. The contractors that are mainly working on ARPA right now, they would not be able to participate in our program, a majority of them. They don't have the RRP certification, they don't have the EPA certification, and definitely don't have the lead contractor certification. So therefore, they wouldn't qualify for our lead program. They stick to what they can. Can they do some windows? If they're RRP certified, yes. Can they do window replacement? I mean, can they do electrical, plumbing, roofing? Yes, they can do that. But if we were talking about a full-blown lead case, no way. And not only that, this man right here, he's a certified inspector. He can go out, take our machine, he'll spend 3 hours doing the initial review with the XRF machine. That's 3 hours of taking 300 plus shots in a home to identify where lead is. Then he has to download that information, then he has to put it in a report, he has to send it off to a lab, he has to get those results back, and then I have to write up a list of work that complies with how to address the lead in the home. Can't do that with an ARPA case. The inspector will go out, hopefully it'll take him an hour, he or she an hour or less to do the inspection of the home. We're doing a healthy homes review. What is the immediate need in that home right now? And that's why we're able to do what we're doing right now.
Steve, what page are we looking at here for housing rehab, or Lash, which?
Page
Mr. Lash?
95.
Okay, and 11 employees. So by virtue of the fact that we...
That'll be down to 10 by end of this month.
I'm sorry?
That'll be 10 by the end of this month.
So by virtue of the fact that we do not have enough trained employees, we leave money on the table that's available out there?
There is an RFP for another lead grant coming up next month, I believe. So, but there's also money that will probably be available from the state. At our current state right now, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
But if you had people, you would?
Yeah. Okay. If this was 25 years ago and we had a staff of 60 people, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But 10 folks, we're getting, this team should be praised for keeping this boat afloat with duct tape and bubble gum. That is what we're dealing with right now. I'm happy we've been able to get the point across that we need bona fide bodies to carry out the program. So I'm thankful for finance, for HR, for allowing us to go out there and pursue getting these positions filled. But again, getting them filled is one thing. That skill set that comes in that door, that's another thing. And people just don't learn housing rehab overnight, especially what he has to do.
So out of your...
We'll have more discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to have more discussion around this in the Housing Committee, because this is definitely something that we need to look at and talk, have more conversations, see how we can figure this piece out, because this is critical. This is important. Yeah. But then again, understanding that, you know, like you said, you have to have the trained personnel, the people who are certified to do this work. So thank you.
All righty. Mr. Malik, you're committee member. I'll come to you first, and then I'll come over to Ms. Holland, okay?
I'll try not to steal your questions, Ms. Holland. Mr. Tatum, thank you for the straight talk. I did have one question, Mr. Fricker, on page 95. The 2022 expenses for salary was $300,000. The budget was $741,000.
Correct. So that relates a little bit to what I discussed yesterday, because these are CD funded. Some of the housing and community service positions were funded out of a different cost center, but the count was the same. It's the same employees. It's just that some of those costs were hitting in what we talked about yesterday, part of the OID budget.
And that was CDBG money?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And that was the traditional CDBG money, right? Not any additional?
Correct.
Okay. And that's not the plan for 2023?
Correct, yeah. All 11 employees are budgeted here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Tatum, I just want to make sure I followed everything that just went on. I think that you attempted to keep us out of the weeds in terms of mixing together the lead abatement programs, which, as a longtime Akron resident, I know have been going on for some time and have had a variety of funding sources over the course of decades.
Correct.
Okay, so we have this, and then we have the ARPA-funded home repair program. And I just want to make sure that I understand what you just said. So I think maybe how we got here was that there was a question along the lines of, well, while you're in there, and by you, of course, I mean one of the contractors from the program, if while you're in there you discover that there is, you know, there's a lead pipe issue or some other lead issue, is that addressed, and does that allow us to aggregate, if I was following the question? Did we all hear it the same way? And I understood reasonably that you said this is mixing up apples and oranges.
Right.
Because we don't have the qualified contractor for lead abatement necessarily part of the home repair program. Am I getting it right?
Well, basically, you mentioned, you added another wrinkle of this. Lead pipes, we don't deal with.
Yep.
The money we receive is strictly for lead-based paint related issues.
Okay. So pipes don't even have anything to do with this.
Unless you're,
Thank you. That
unless a plumber is dealing with another issue in the property, the lead-based paint won't even address that.
Very good. Thank you for getting specific about it, because for a while now I've been on the edge of my chair and hearing Mr. Luddle report our progress in terms of replacing lead supply lines. So I found myself saying, wait a minute.
No, I'll let him handle that.
Yeah, right on.
I stay whatever lane I'm in right now.
You have enough lead in your life, so I hear you.
More than a human deserves.
So with all of this in mind, I think that there is a lot of question about whether we will reach capacity to complete the budgeted amount, and I'm talking big picture. I'm not talking about a line item in these projections here. Will we reach capacity to serve the 2,300 applicants who currently are pending?
In my professional opinion?
Yes, sir.
We will, the 20+ 100 applications we received, if we're able to address 500 to 700, given the time frame given, I'd be impressed with that number.
Okay.
Because it's not only dealing with personnel, and everything has to be done correctly according to the federal government. You're also dealing with supply chain. There is still a supply chain issue out there that we're dealing with. And remember this, with lead, we only had to deal with Canton, Summit County, Collier County, and Youngstown, receiving lead money and utilizing a slew of contractors in that pool. You have some contractors that are trying to get jobs everywhere, and they're built for that. When it comes to ARPA, just about every jurisdiction has received some type of funding. So if any of them are doing home repair programs or whatever.
They're already engaged.
Correct.
Okay.
So the pool is even limited there.
Okay, so you're projecting capacity for 500 to 700 of the current 2,300 applicants, and I understand this.
My humble opinion, that is what we're probably going to be
This is
looking
art, not science, right?
December 2026. Okay. If we hit 700, I'd be impressed with that.
Good, good. I have other questions, but I think they belong offline because we're trying to focus on numbers, but thank you
That's
so
fine
much.
with me, and
great.
You know where we hide.
Great, thanks for clarifying, I appreciate you.
So it's Tatum and Taylor, the lead busters. That's kind of what, and you've done you guys have done a fantastic job. I mean, good talk, this has been going on for years, so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tatum. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very important conversation and discussion regarding that. Next, we have Greg Kalel, who is our co-compliance supervisor, and he actually oversees our nuisance division and our 311 call center operation, of which, in talking to all of you separately over time, you are very familiar with that operation. But I'm going to allow Mr. Kalel to just kind of share some things that have been going on, some of the things we were able to accomplish in 22, and going into 23, what we're reaching for. Greg?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Mr. Lash stated, I oversee the Nuisance Compliance Division in 311. Nuisance compliance deals with animal control issues and all external private property code violations. I believe you have my accomplishments and goals in front of you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just to keep things from going off track, I think there's probably a lot of council people here that'd like to talk about animals. That's just, and I don't know if we reach out to you, I'd like to handle it through committees, but I know there's problems with the county, and there's problems here, there, and whatnot, so that's a conversation that has to be had here real soon. Greg, thank you for what you're doing. I know that there's some hands tied different places, but does, numbers-wise here, I see 9 employees. Is that what I see here?
Yes.
Okay, so there's 2 divisions of nuisance. There's, and maybe you're looking at 311. So yeah, 311 has 9 employees. That is on page 91. Correct? And we do have some vacant positions there, but we've budgeted to fill those positions. And then the nuisance pages are on pages 89 and 90.
Questions or comments for Mr. Kaleo? Ms. Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kaleo, I'm looking at the budget here, and I see that there's nothing set aside for training. How are your call center people trained?
Well, various programs through HR. I mean, there's training programs, customer service programs that they go through HR.
How are they trained to perform their jobs?
on, well, if they're hired in to 311, they have a probationary period, which they work with another 311 call center taker until they're familiar enough that they can answer calls themselves, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I ask this because I've had so much residential feedback about issues with how calls are handled, so much satisfaction with the 311 online services. This receives favorable reviews over and over and over again from people who are using this service in Ward 1. But unfortunately, I get a great deal of frustration and concerned reports about the call center, and so I'm interested in understanding what training is provided.
If I can answer this, Councilwoman Holland, there is an internal training component that when one is hired, that the call center coordinator and supervisor takes the new hire through. So there is that exists. Not saying that additional training is not needed, but there is a training component built in currently.
Okay, thank you. And are all of the funded positions full-time positions?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Looking around. Let's see, I don't see any other questions. All right, Greg, thank you. Thank you very much. And 311 is obviously so important because sometimes that's people's impression of the city. And I know what you're saying. But thank you for everything. And we will move on next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, all members of council. Have a great evening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Just an FYI, if I could. I know it.
Anybody need to take a minute or two break, or are we all good? Yes. Yeah, you know what prompted that? We're going to take about a 2 or 3 minute break here. just... Okay. All right, we are coming to our last category for this evening. And if you would, please, Mr. Lovell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of committee and the rest of council. This is the Service Department presentation. With me, I have Deputy Service Directors Jim Aiken and Ufranci Lash. First, I don't have all the managers here this afternoon, but obviously this is a team effort. I would like to publicly thank all them, all the supervisors, all the superintendents, all the way down, rank and file. We're very proud of our staff and service. You have all our goals and accomplishments. I would like to just run through a few highlights of each division. Do you want me to go division by division and then questions, or I could just go through them all and then we can go back? It's either
How are we
way.
going to do the how are we going to do the numbers here? We're probably going to do them section by section, aren't we?
I mean, that's up to you guys.
Okay. I tend to get things a bit convoluted. Can you go through, like, and say, oh, the golf course, here's what happened there, and then, you know.
Yeah, so there is kind of an order, and we group things basically by bureau. So there's kind of the service director's office and the golf course, and they're kind of by themselves. Then we have Public Works, we have the Engineering Bureau, there's several divisions under them, and then we have Water and Sewer. So
Okay.
that's kind of how the
So,
order
I mean, I
goes.
think the way you received the email, engineering was first, and I don't know if you printed it or however, but I can just go through engineering, and then we could, you know, if you have questions about the engineering.
In our outline here, golf courses first, as far as the order of the.
Okay, well, we could talk about the golf course first.
Yeah.
Obviously, rounds were up. We had a great year last year. We still have a bit of a subsidy, but we are booked up this year. A lot of the weekends are already booked up. That's probably due not only to the improvements we've put in the golf course the last few years, but as you know, there's been a lot of golf courses closed. First Tee, their numbers are up tremendously. Their outreach to the Akron Public Schools, the things they're doing in the neighborhood. So they have really helped the Mud Run facility generate, obviously, more of a positive revenue. So we're very happy with that agreement that we have there. So other than that, I mean, I can take any questions about the golf course, but everything seems to be running very smoothly out there.
Mr. Lombardo?
Thank you. Mr. Lowe, that damage that happened at Mud Run, was that covered by insurance, or?
I'm sorry?
The damage, the turfing or whatever happened?
We actually fixed that in-house.
Okay.
So we were able to fix that in-house.
Okay.
Yes.
But do we have insurance for?
We
obviously
do, but the deductible, you know, we just fixed it in.
It's a $250,000 deductible,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That course is what, 21 years old now?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Questions regarding, we're talking about golf courses right now. Questions, comments? Tara?
Just really brief on the salaries and wages. See, there's 3 employees and the budgeted wage is $669,000.
So there's 3 full-time employees, but there's also several seasonals that work both within the clubhouse and out on the grounds crew. So again, I'm only showing the full-time employees
Okay.
on these sheets just because the part-times change so frequently throughout the year that it's hard to really get a good count. So these documents just reflect full-time employees.
Can you at least email us a list of how many of those part-timers there are? Because as soon as I looked at this, I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of money for 3 people.
Okay, yeah, we can
Okay.
do that.
Yeah, there's probably near 40 between everything on the seasonals.
Okay.
Some work in the clubhouse. They, you know, now that we've taken over the snack bar, they work in there, and then we have the grounds crew. So
Okay.
What was the increase in the service contracts last year? I see 131,000. You had 50 budgeted?
We'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure I understood that last answer. Did you say, Mr. Fricker, there are 3 full-time employees and some 40 part-timers?
That number changes, but it could be up to 40. yes.
Fair enough. So what portion of the 669.5 represents the 3 full-time salaries, roughly?
Let me give you that. I'll give you that in a second here.
Sure,
Great.
sure.
Give me a second because I have to look up the right line item file.
While we're talking about the golf course, can we change 18 from a par 4 to a par 5? Or at least 4.5? Because that's too much.
Sure,
too
Jeff,
far.
anything for you.
And we're not trimming any trees because you keep hitting it, so don't ask. Or cutting them down. I'm not.
Yes, Mr. Malik?
So that is for, so as we mentioned, we subsidize the golf course. So that is for, we advanced funds to the golf course, and that is to pay back the advance. So that's what that represents.
Yes.
Yes, that is an annual subsidy, and I would anticipate we'll have to advance funds this year as well.
In the same amount?
Roughly the same amount.
Do you have it? Okay, yes, so 458 for the, no, so, yeah, the full-time is what, read that off.
Yeah, so for full-time, we're budgeting $204,000, and for part-time wages, we're budgeting $458,000.
So 3 people compensated a total of $204,000 annually, and then the remainder goes to approximately 40 part-timers?
That is correct.
Okay. And are there green fees at this golf course?
Yes.
And do we have an idea of what was generated last year? Other than not enough?
In green fees?
Yeah. Or revenue of any kind from this golf course?
I don't know if that's
Were you inquiring about Good Park or Good Park and Mud Run? I think, because I think we're all interested in.
So Good Park, the revenue that the golf course generates is about $950,000. And Mud Run is about $405,000.
And the $300-some-thousand a year subsidy goes to Good Park or to Good Park and Mud Run?
It goes to both, yeah.
Together, not
Correct.
each, collectively? Okay, let's just get
Right.
real clear, because I think Councilman Freeman's suggesting that these are 2 separate cost centers, and they're not, are they?
No, they are, yeah.
Are they? Okay, now I'm confused. So $300,000 subsidizes both of these together, not each.
No, each, so the subsidy last year, so it's about $340 for Good Park and $190 for Mud Run.
Okay, thank you. Any thoughts of raising the fees or working on revenue?
We are.
We did raise fees a little bit this year, but we're trying to stay in line with everybody else. We're afraid if we raise them too high, then we're going to lose play. So we're not the lowest, but we're not the highest either. We take comparisons to all courses around, other than private, you know.
And how long have we had these two golf courses? How long have we been in the golf course business?
Good Park is approaching 100 years now, I would say. It was built in the 1920s sometime. And then Mud Run, 10?
21 years.
Yeah, or how many?
21 years we've had
21,
Mud Run.
okay. That's true, it's been.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the follow-up questions from my colleague, and it's a beautiful facility. I think I'm the only lawyer who doesn't golf, but then again, I'm not practicing law either. I guess I would say, just to put a fine point on it, you know, it essentially costs us about $900,000 each year to run this golf course, right?
When you say it costs us, we subsidize about $500,000, and I believe we've had years that have been better than that based on expenses and things like that. So that's at the high end of what we would be subsidizing.
But I think you said the revenue is about $700,000.
So the revenue is 950 plus, so it's about $1.3 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the subsidy is just the $750. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
And so the subsidy is, and we'll talk about this, is budgeted in the finance citywide budget this year. So it's in finance, so, because I put all the general fund subsidy in one place.
Just for the record, we do have Councilwoman Connor and Councilman Neal with us. Just read that into the record. Any other questions? All right, what we'd like to talk about next, we have, on our list here, we have, it was Administration Golf Course Public Works Bureau. Is that logical next?
Okay, Public Works Bureau. Some of the accomplishments that, we'll just start with building maintenance. We have several divisions in Public Works. One of the accomplishments that we successfully completed is the backup generator for the Municipal Center at Triplet. That hasn't been running in years. Unfortunately, when we lost power out there, we were down the whole center. 301 was down. So that's been done. Our goal this year is to continue to work on the safety and security upgrades to existing facilities, and including the fire suppression system that we brought to you a few months back at the Municipal Service Center. The Highway Division, we responded last year to 18,500 requests for service, just a little bit under 3,100 pothole patching, pavement repairs. Now that's not just potholes, that's also big repairs we did. We managed the resurfacing program, which was 73.5 miles last year. We completed in-house 703 permanent restorations, those between water and sewer. So all those excavations that go on all year long, Highway does perform those. We do not contract them out. And one thing we did successfully do last year, which we have in the past, we run our own CDL program for our new employees. A lot of these are the high school students that we hire or other divisions. We trained 25 city employees, and last year we were at 100% passing rate, so we're very proud of that. Our goals this year is to run another successful resurfacing program. I think that our contractor I believe they were going to start this week milling roads, but with a little bit of snow, maybe they held off, but they were scheduled. We have probably another 800 or 900 pavement repairs to do in-house, and then we are going to run another CDL program again this year. Move on to motor equipment. We completed 7,100 vehicle repairs. Obviously, we've had a lot more vehicle repairs due to we weren't able to buy new vehicles in the last couple years, so our trucks are getting older, but they are keeping these things running as best they can. We upgraded our fuel management system. That was a big upgrade we did last year. And then we are going to, our goal this year is to enhance our training of our employees on the new green vehicle and equipment technologies. We want to keep up and keep all our employees trained, so we will extend that training to all our employees. We are going to work closely with our customers and vehicle equipment suppliers on the new orders to help minimize the impacts of the extremely long wait times on some of these parts. Next is our Parks Division. Last year, they responded to 2,500 requests for service. They completed 2,141 mowing, everything that John Malish has done, and I'd be remiss to not mention each one of their names. So if I could just go back a minute, Jim Batten is in building maintenance, and then Anthony Dolly is our superintendent in highway. Scott Robinette is our superintendent in motor equipment. John Malish is our superintendent in parks. So what John Malish instituted last year is he's created a system where he's really reduced the mowing time. Even though we mow the same amount of grass, we actually mow more the amount of grass, but he's optimized the system. He's leveraged some new equipment that was authorized by this council. A lot of our tractor mowers we no longer use. We have the new mowers are 104-inch, so they're like a wing mower. So he's really, one, it's helped the playing surfaces of these fields, because when it's wet like this, those tractors used to leave a lot of ruts in the outfield, where these newer tractors are lighter, and he can actually mow more grass at a shorter amount of time. So he planted 1,725 trees last year. That was very successful. We did have to do a lot of trimming. We removed quite a few diseased and dead trees, and we did take out the stumps, but we pretty much planted about the same number that we had to remove diseased trees. Our goals for this year are to plant another 1,700 trees, complete walking paths at Snyder Park and Joy Park with our own in-house staff. That's with some new equipment that we purchased. So those are the things that, even though we come to you to bid some of these projects, if we can do them in-house with our own staff, it is going to save money in the long run. Next is recycling and trash collection. That's Dan Dempsey, and we responded to 41,000 requests for service. And if you look at 301 or Workday, the largest number of requests we get from 301 is trash. Whether it's, a vacant home, that somebody put trash out, or they respond to the most. So they collected about 80,000 tons of trash last year, 4,700 tons of recyclables. Working with KAB, and we plan to do that again, is do our audit, and it's about recycling right program, educating our public what to put in, what not to put in. We reduced our contamination last year from 25.88 to 22.3%, which is about a 15% reduction. And it's our Recycle Right program. Our goals this year, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, is to increase our efficiency in the recycling program, and we are looking to pilot a glass drop-off. So we have a survey out there right now. Just yesterday I did talk to a resident about how can we reach more people to get this survey out. Everybody doesn't have the access to a computer. So we are looking at how do we get, and we'll leverage all of you at your ward meetings to try to get this out, to get this survey out. You know, they can go on right now and they can pick a spot where they would drive to, where they would feel comfortable to drop off, okay? So we're looking at that currently, and we're looking at whether, obviously, if we own that business or we own that property, it's the easiest. But if we get a partner that would allow us to put that, we can go up to 10 with this program we're trying to get. So, you know, you think that's one in each ward, but where's the best spot in that ward to put this recycle bin, okay, to make it the easiest for our residents. And obviously, there may be a drop-off point in the ward that you don't even live in, but it's actually closer to your home. You know what I mean? So we're looking to partner not only with businesses but property we own and get residents' input on where they think the best place or where they would be the most advantageous to take it. But as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, it is the education of, you know, maybe taking doing a better thing at the grocery store. If I can buy glass or I can buy an aluminum can, obviously aluminum can is a higher margin for us. And it's easier for them because if they've got to take this, you got to put it into a bin, you got to pick it up, and that always isn't going to be easy. So some of the people said that could be a deterrent to them is transporting the glass. So that's one of our goals in the sanitation division. Next is street cleaning. We responded to over 15,000 requests for service. Street cleaning picks up all the dead animals, unfortunately. They did collect 53,000 cubic yards of leaves. I don't want to talk about the weather right now, especially when we talk about snow and ice, because all these divisions do snow and ice, but I could tell you this, Mother Nature was very good to us in December and November. The leaves seemed to fall early this year, and I think all of you remember there was times that it's March 18th right now, or March 15th right now, we'd still be picking up leaves in some years, you know? So we had a very good year in leaf pickup. Going down to the next I have is sewer. I don't know what you guys have, but if you want questions about Public Works, we can go over that now.
Questions? Ms. Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Luddle. You're my favorite. Don't tell the others.
There was a lot of love going on with those council people. I was afraid to come up here, you know, Sarah and Michelle and everything.
Don't worry
Fair
about
enough. So what I've been looking for, and you may have already covered this, and it may have just, I don't know, maybe I just didn't see it, mowing contracts. Are they in here?
So most of those are in the nuisance division which Mr. Kalale just covered. So those are the mowing. Now, there are some within parks maintenance, although we're doing a lot of that work ourselves now. So we've reduced some of our outside mowing contracts so we can do it in-house. So we've bought some equipment over the last couple of years in order to accommodate that.
This is music to my ears, and I did hear you say that we have some upgraded equipment. Sounds like it's probably more energy efficient, probably reduced emissions. I guess I want to check in with you. We've talked before about initiatives like No Mow May. Not only might this reduce our impact on the planet, but it might reduce costs too. Thoughts?
We have talked about that internally. We'd like to talk to you and I believe Councilwoman Connor. So I would like to have that conversation. We need to have that soon, what that would look like. Obviously, when we have an athletic surface, a soccer field, they're not going to like No Mow May, okay? But some of our lots, some of our other, and I'm not saying that we're not, maybe we don't mow outside the fence lines on those ball fields. We've talked about that with the mayor, how that would look, okay? So yeah, I would love to have that conversation with you.
Good.
But But Mr. Fricker's right. Just in-house, I think Mr. Malish's crew, they took over like 138 of those vacant lots.
Okay.
Mowing contracts, you are going to see less next year because he has taken more over. The soccer fields, Copley Road, we are now going to take over the maintenance of those soccer fields.
Okay.
Okay. Patterson Park ball fields, we are now going to take that over. And this isn't something where we eliminated somebody's contract. It's been a mutual agreement, okay? Unfortunately, with the number of children, their children, not playing ball, it's kind of sad. It's like we have a lot of facilities that aren't being used, and part of that organization was to maintain that, to support that organization. Well, if the organization isn't there, why would they want to keep mowing, okay? So
Sure.
we're taking that over. So we have taken over a lot of responsibility,
And
and this
that's
equipment
in-house?
is going to help, yes.
Okay. Okay, and Mr. Fricker or Mike, are you able to put your finger on a number on the mowing contracts that ended up under nuisance?
So, yeah, under nuisance, let me go back to that. I believe it was 300-some thousand, but give me a second here. 370? Okay, yeah.
370?
Yeah, that's under nuisance. So what those are the assessed mowing. So those are like the high grass and weed complaints that we receive. They go and address those. So these, the ones that we're talking about in parks maintenance are city-owned parks and facilities. So some of them are at, like at Firestone Stadium and a few of the city-maintained baseball fields that we have.
A lot of the little mowing contracts that we have in parks, it could be like the park we renamed for Councilman Swirsky. You know, a neighbor would do it, and maybe their contract would be like $400 a year, or they're very small. But a lot of our little, and they're not really parks, but parcels that we own, triangles, we don't designate as a park, but we have a lot of those small pocket areas that we own that we'd like to encourage a neighbor to get a small contract with us to mow those lots. So, they tend to take very good care of them. They live there. They pick up the trash, and they
good
mow
for
the
the
grass.
neighborhood. Yep.
Okay, so they do a nice job. I mean, a lot of times with this new equipment, we spend more time picking up trash than we do mowing, unfortunately. And that's
sure,
another
that's
thing that
true.
we all need to, try to curb in this city is the trash around the city.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Neal, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Little, for what you shared. Since I want to go back to the CDL. If you can give us a breakdown, please, on where which high schools a lot of those children are coming from. I know the city is a corporate community partner with one of the high schools, I forget which one, but I'd like to make sure that students out of the school in my cluster have the opportunity to participate. So if I can get that information and find out what it is. And then, we've been talking about this for a while with the vacant lots, and I heard you mention, we know that whenever we can include residents, we always get a better, we're always able to provide a better service when it comes to maintaining these lots. Can we please break these down and see what we have in wards and where we can create the opportunity for more ownership within the wards so that we can put together the structure for engaging our young people in maintaining these lots. Back with one of the first youth violence initiatives, when we went for the Bird Grant, we were working with at that time, the Kings and Queens down at Summit Lake maintaining the lots. John Moore was the planning director at that time. I don't know if you were involved, but anyways, we had very good outcomes from that. With us trying to curb the youth violence, we know that having them engaged and taking ownership of the community is critical. And if we can use the funds that we use for mowing the lawns to help underwrite this type of initiative, would appreciate that, especially if the city could partner with the community and we partner with the county and the JOGS program, where if we provide the structure, they will provide the income for the young people. So, if we can get a breakdown on the lots per ward, how many there are, and if it's possible for us to experiment with a few wards, and I want to donate mine, to have the youth take ownership and maintain the vacant lots.
Sure, we can look at that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. The other, Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Little, just a few questions. On the mowing subject, just so I'm clear, the vacant lots that the city owns, who is mowing those?
Vacant lots that city owns, it's a combination of parks and part of nuisance.
Okay.
Okay, now if we do not own them, then there's criteria that we follow. They have to be at least 8 inches. We have to post it, okay? So those aren't mowed regularly. Those might only get mowed 4 times a year because we are assessing. In the policy that we have, you know, if we just go out and mow it every time and they says, well, I didn't even know it was high. And you know, they might not even live here. It might be owned by somebody out of state, okay? So that is a little bit different than lots we own.
Yeah.
Okay? A lot of the stuff we own, we mow in-house with
Sure.
parks maintenance.
And then the remaining is done contractually through nuisance compliance?
Well, in the past, they've had some mowers and they have some work release people, but yes, a lot of those are contracted out. Or we have those small parcels we own and we have a neighbor mowing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Mr. Fricker, would it be possible for us to get a list of those mowing contracts?
Okay.
Okay. And then snow and ice. We're very lucky this year, and also do just want to say I think that we continue to make improvements, and I have residents who are reaching out to me are saying, you know, we in the past have never been plowed and now we are, so we appreciate that. I know we've had in the past a lot of discussions about technology, and there was discussions about, you know, kind of having a mapping service that would be publicly accessible so folks can see it's not that you haven't been plowed, it's they haven't been plowed yet. Where are we on that?
I can get back to you, but I know as of last week, our GIS people and Darren Rosnick and Jim Hall were piloting something. I just don't know where that's at to roll it out.
Okay.
But they are looking at it actively.
Okay. And then in the trucks, right, are they using paper maps? Are they using electronic maps when they're doing the plowing?
They're still using paper.
Okay.
But we're looking to upgrade to the iPads in the trucks.
Okay.
Yes, that's in the budget.
Okay. If that is in the budget?
Yes.
What's the amount there?
Well, I don't know that it is. It was last year. We were going to do it, and then something happened. And I think it's because we are still looking at the new technology for the AVL tracking. So it is not in here, but if that's something that we're ready to go forward with this year, we could certainly add it in.
Okay. I would say for myself, between housing and service, I'm going to spend a lot of time over the next few weeks talking about iPads. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are at about 5:51 here, so we will continue on if we could, please.
What do you have next, Mr. Chairman? Because I don't have the same list you have.
You know what? My computer went dead here for a moment. Is it water? Water reclamation?
Engineering? Okay. We'll go through engineering pretty quickly here.
Alrighty.
We did receive an award for our Hazel Basin, which is RAC 1011. That's over in Goodyear Heights area. We received some grants for our airport for the taxiway. We received 95 funding for that. We have collaborated, and I want to stress this, with not only engineering, but with all our divisions to work together, okay? So which has really helped optimize our whole operation and service. So they've all really bought into this, and they've really done a nice job of collaborating. I want to say we successfully bid 28 projects last year with a total of $90 million. And now that $90 million, we received $15 million in grant funding from various agencies. We've brought this to you before, sponsoring the WRSP grants on some of those that would reduce our financing cost over the 45 years by a tune of $743,000 last year. And that's all our staff out there searching for these grants and these design loans. So BioSep, the testing phase, was completed in 2022. That was the new improvements at WRF. We went from 220 million gallons up to 280 million gallons a day on these big storms, so that increased our capacity there. The North Side Interceptor Tunnel, we have worked with our design team. They've done a lot of the work in-house, so we will bid that smaller tunnel on time. We will advertise April 30th, just like our consent decree calls for. We completed and designed, we completed and advertised 14 design projects last year, which are a lot of sewer projects, but we did do those in-house. So our consent decree, Amendment 3, as we talked about, reducing the size of the North Side Tunnel from 24-foot diameter to 16 is going to save the city approximately $66 million. Until we actually bid that project, that number could go up or down, but right now we're estimating that will be the savings to the city. We're actively in negotiation with removing the high-rate treatment facility of the existing tunnel. We're in negotiations on that. As you know, there was 26 projects in the consent decree. We have to be done by the end of 27, and we successfully completed 24 of those projects. So the 2 are left of the tunnel and that treatment facility. Our public outreach, we participated in a number of things last year. Our employees belong to several agencies that are accredited. That all goes to their the degrees they hold and all the certifications they hold. Engineering did participate in the all-student engineering program, and we're very proud of our all-student engineering program. You know, this year we accepted 32 students in the program. We placed 28 of those 32 students in internships, and those lot go to our local engineering firms in Akron. They hire these students. We help them along with these internships. Street lighting, we renewed 994 power outage and new street lighting through the 311 request. Traffic engineering received over 1,500 related traffic engineering requests through 311. We closed all those out. This number here, we received 17,883 requests from the Ohio Underground Utility Request. That means anybody that's, when you hear call before you dig, that's what we got. So we received, that's 860 tickets we actually had to go out on. So if you take the number of requests that we received and the number of working days, somebody has to actually open and address that. Now, we always don't have to go out, because if they're putting, you know, if Ohio Edison's putting a pole in the middle where we have no utilities and we look at, then we just close it out and says no conflict. But someone actually go in there and do that. It's like 70 a day we get on average that we have to address. That's one of the things that traffic engineering's doing. Obviously, this year our goal is to upgrade the lights that Mr. Lombardo's been after us on Route 8 to LED. That's going to be done. And then upgrading a lot of our school flashing signs to new technology. We're going to be working on that very diligently. So with that, that basic takes care of engineering. They do a lot more than that, but I try to fly through there, sir.
School funding signs, is that coming out of, did we have any reserve funds from our traffic camera dollars? Because that's how all that was supposed to be paid for.
The ones that sorry, the ones that council, that actually comes out of the council budget. So, like those little, are you talking about the little signs that?
No, he was talking about the flashing signs. It's
Oh,
my
okay.
understanding that
Oh, you're
all those
talking about, so
flashing signs
yes,
are being
yes,
paid
yes.
for out of the
Any
fines.
school zone signalization
Right.
would be in the child safety fund,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, what's an example of a upgrade to the school flashing signs, or, you know, I know what it is now. What would be an example of an upgrade? What are we looking to do?
The technology is, let's see here. I think what the technology is going to do, right now, if we have a fault, we have to go out and physically, they will all be remote. So we'll be able to control these timing-wise from a remote location. Right now, if we wanted to change the timing because tomorrow's a holiday, we'd have to physically go do it. Now they'll be able to do it remotely. They'll be able to monitor remotely. When they get a power outage, they'll get an alert. So it's a lot of remote. This is what the technology is going to be.
So it's nothing physical, like additional lights or
No.
anything like that? It's all
No.
technology?
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or we're coming, there's 4 of us left here now, so, all right.
5.
Oh, I'm sorry, we had Ginger online here. Okay, thank you. No, it's still Russ is here, all right, proceed, please.
What's
Okay, so next is,
Water or
I think
sewer?
it's water.
Water? Okay.
Yeah, this could be a whole session in of itself, I understand that.
Okay. Some of our accomplishments, you know, we've completed 94 consecutive months of continuous operation on our filter and our lagoon without any discharge monitoring violations. Water distribution repaired 273 water mains, renewed 338 lead services, and that was all with Akron city employees. We put a crew on specifically just to do lead replacements with our contractors. We obtained an EPA loan allowing us to renew approximately 1,200 services with contractors. We applied for a second and secured a $10 million loan, secured $10 million of ARPA funding for water main replacement, and those bids are out currently. Those are going to start pretty soon. And we applied, and we received $5 million. We're using $5 million of our ARPA dollars to replace the galvanized house lines on private side. So anywhere where there was a lead service that we renew and they have a galvanized line from the lawn strip in the house, that is now getting restored by the homeowner with these grant dollars. Before, that was on the homeowner to pay for that. So this is really helping the homeowner. We'll continue to you know, operate our plant this year. That's one of our goals, is to stay in compliance with EPA. We've had some of our lowest numbers last year ever when it comes to not even violations. So we've probably, last year we produced some of the best water numbers than we've ever had in the history of Akron Water, okay? That's been a partnership with our own employees. We've engaged with Akron U, and we've optimized our chemicals and our dosages. Unfortunately, the money we've saved in that, the chemical costs have gone up. Everything has gone up. The transportation has gone up, the chemical costs have gone up, but we've tried to optimize this system to try to keep our costs in line. We are going to implement an improved operator training program with effectively training new and existing operators with a one-on-one assessment, reviews, standard operating procedures, consistently monthly training exercises. So we do this with our own staff. We train all our new employees, and we encourage them to get their license. So we've been very successful of getting our employees the proper license to run our water plant. We are going to go after another $10 million of lead replacement money after 2023 in the contracts, and with what we're doing currently, we should be down to around 1,200 lead services in our system. At one time, we probably had 55,000 throughout the distribution system, and after these programs, we'll be down to about 1,200.
Oh. Questions, there's just a ton of questions that could happen here, but it was pretty exciting a few weeks ago when you came in and was talking about the consent decree and shrinking down the tunnel and all that's been accomplished. So thank you for that. And seeing Pat here was kind of cool too. And Mr. Aiken, we haven't even acknowledged your stellar self back there. Thank you for everything you do as well. Thank you, sir. All right. Questions or comments? All right. I think that's, let me see. Okay, I think that's it. Tomorrow night we'll be coming back and we'll have law and finance tomorrow night, I believe.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Councilman Neal just raised
Okay,
his
very
hand.
good.
Thanks.
Mr. Neal.
Hey, real quick, Mr. Chair, I know you guys want to get out of here. Mr. Fricker, at one time we were looking at the, since we're trying to assist our citizens cut down the water bill, I know you guys are doing everything on the construction end. The other thing we were looking at one time was the amount of debt that was written off and sent to the county. I think it was somewhere around 1.5, 1.2, 1.5 a year we were writing off. But then I believe they were, if you could say, collecting of that debt that we were writing off somewhere around 800,000. Can we get an update on what that looks like? And if we're able, I know before you said that money was just going right back to the general fund. But if
Well, it wouldn't go in the general fund, it would go, so any of the assessed, if we assess delinquent water bills, and that's usually a combination of water, sewer, and curb, so we would allocate whatever the county collects through the assessment process, we would allocate it between water, sewer, and curb as we receive it from the county.
Okay, it may be in the documentation, but if we can see where that shows up in the budget, where that money that's returned to us after we write it off comes back to us, if we can see that.
I mean, we could try to pull, we should be able to pull the assessment report that we get to see what we collect through the assessment. So yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lovell?
Can I just say one more thing?
Please.
Well, we didn't really cover sewer. We did a little bit of the consent decree. With everything they've done down there, with the two major projects they finished up, and, the guys down there, the guys and gals said it was like doing open heart surgery. You had both ends tore up and you're trying to keep the place running. Last year, we only had 3 SSOs, which means sanitary sewer overflows in the system. In a system our size, that's like minuscule. So to only have 3, and that goes to all our TV and all our cleaning, and what they're doing with that operation down there is absolutely fabulous. So, on that biosep, we had to be at 110 or more million gallons of flow rate to do that test. We had 18 months to do that test. We did it in 7 months.
Wow.
So what they've done down there, and I could go on and on about sewer, but, I just wanted to mention the good work that they're doing down there in the sewer department.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question offline here in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. We'll be back tomorrow night at 3 p.m. Thank you.